Chapter 669. Meeting of Michael and Victoria Barnes. The next day, when the first light appeared on the horizon, dark chilly clouds blanketed the sun. Snow pure as an innocent child blessed the earth with its puffy whiteness. The trees shed their leaves, welcoming the winter with a warm embrace. The winter brought black and whiteness along with a bone-chilling coldness. Everything in Mazeroth looked white. The black lake resembled a floor made of obsidian. Mazeroth castle towers wore puffy snow-like hats. The students, especially the first years, rushed outside to play in the snow. Several students showed their imagination through various statues made of ice. Another group showed their lust for destruction by destroying those statues. Nonetheless, pure fun was just as abundant as the snow in Mazeroth. Back in his room, Michael slowly opened his eyes. He felt the chillness in the air and the joyful shots from the outside. He stretched his arm, pulling aside the curtains to see the heavy snow rain through the window. "So the winter is here," Michael yawned. He jumped back from the bed and started doing push-ups to warm his body as usual. It took Michael almost 15 minutes to freshen up. Although cultivators didn't need baths, Michael's old habits followed him to the new world. Hence, Michael had never started a day without taking a bath and brushing his teeth. Wondering how to convince Gaia to stay behind while he ventures into the treacherous ocean, Michael walked out of his room. He was on his way to the arena so he could watch how Eladir fared in the duel. To Michael's surprise, the common room was filled with a crowd. "Why is everyone here?" Michael thought to himself. Usually, the alchemy students would greet Michael with wide grins and fist bumps. But at this moment, none of them dared to move an inch. They all stood around something. So no specialization is inferior to another one. You cannot compare one with another. If you reach the top of your specialization, you won't have to fight, Michael heard a calm voice. Immediately the voice made Michael think of a wise old man. But he didn't sense anyone in his environmental scanning. He glanced at the room to find Ruby. She wasn't in the room. "Learn to make the world a better place. Do not let the power corrupt you, my children." For some reason, Michael felt like these words were directed at him. Michael was curious. He wanted to see the voice's owner. "That's all the time I have now. If a higher force allowed us, we will meet again." Unfortunately, the man seemed to have finished his gathering with the students. Michael slowly squeezed through the students to reach the front line. He was more curious than cautious. When he reached the front, he saw an old man with a long white beard and round glasses hanging on his nose. He was neither too tall nor too short. His body was hidden within the extravagant purple robes. As Michael imagined, the man looked wise, gentle, and an embodiment of calmness. "Here you are," the man welcomed Michael with a gentle smile. "They wanted to wake you up, but I didn't allow them. Did you rest well?" The man asked in a grandfatherly tone. "Headmaster," Michael was stunned. It was Wulfric, the headmaster of Mazeroth himself. What surprised him more was Michael didn't even sense the man's presence. Even when he met Wulfric face to face, Michael couldn't sense his cultivation stage. But his neck hair tingled. Deep within, Michael felt a strange surge of energy. Every fiber in Michael's body warned Michael of the powerful being before him. One thing was for sure, Wulfric was much more powerful than Michael thought he was. "How about you walk me outside?" asked Wulfric. Michael wanted to get as far as possible from the man. However, he didn't have a choice but to nod. "It'd be my pleasure, headmaster," said Michael. The students around Michael felt jealous. He got to talk to the headmaster alone. Only Michael knew the danger he was in. Having no other choice, Michael walked beside Wulfric. "Among the 4 seasons, winter might be my favorite. What about you?" asked Wulfric. "I think I like all of them, headmaster," said Michael. "Do you know why I like winter? It's the perfect balance of light and darkness, as all things should be. Don't you agree?" Michael felt a chill running down his spine. Despite the cold, Michael sweated beneath his robes. Silence fell over them. They both walked through the corridor in silence. "Balance, yes," Michael nodded, breaking the silence. He didn't want to make things awkward. This year might be Mazeroth's golden age. "We will receive yet another talented alchemist," said Wulfric. Michael creased his furrows. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed, Noah Winston. You might have heard about him. Although Michael expected this deep down, it was still a bit surprising to hear it from Wulfric. I do know him, Headmaster, said Michael. Are you a friend of his? Asked Wulfric. We just know each other. It's a small world, Headmaster. Despite everything, Michael remained calm. Luckily, Wulfric and Michael reached the outside where Wulfric stretched his arm to collect some of the falling snow. Even the strongest blizzards start with a single snowflake. Just like a long blood feud or lifelong friendship start with a single decision, Wulfric patted Michael on the shoulder before ascending to the sky. Michael waited until Wulfric completely disappeared from his sight. As soon as he disappeared, Michael turned around and rushed back to his room. Hey, what did the headmaster say to you? Did he give you any pointers? Several students questioned Michael when they saw him back. But Michael ignored all of them. He rushed to his room. Gaia. Michael immediately contacted Gaia. Eladir, Nightmare. Without waiting for Gaia to respond, Michael contacted Eladir and Nightmare. I am in the middle of a class. Are you alright? You sound worried. Michael heard Gaia's voice in his head. Drop everything you're doing and get back to my room, said Michael. Anything happened? Asked Gaia. No time to explain. Do what I say now. He also ordered Eladir and Nightmare to come to his room. While waiting for them, Michael upgraded the environmental scanning and paid the system a sum of badass points to strengthen the Eyes of Darkness. The moment the system finished upgrading the spells, Michael closed his eyes. He spread his senses around him. His eyes abruptly opened. Shock and panic glimmered in his eyes. The room grew gloomier as a dark shroud enveloped Michael. He looked up. Suddenly, the sound of something shattering resonated in the air. The level 8 environmental scanning exposed the surveillance spell put on Michael. System, can you trace the origin of that surveillance spell? Asked Michael. The system sensed the origin is from somewhere in the Aquilan realm. But system version 9 required to pinpoint the exact location, said the system. The system's words confirmed Michael's suspicion. Michael spent 200,000 badass points to increase the darkness manipulation from 28% to 36%. As a result, his Eyes of Darkness received an ability to see through disguises. After meeting Wulfric and learning about the surveillance spell put around him, Michael had a feeling there might be people of Skyhall around him in disguise. How can I be this careless and stupid? Michael punched the wall, creating a fist-size hole in the wall. I was being watched all this time, Michael gritted his teeth. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Nadee's anger was cut short by someone outside his door. Michael sensed a core formation level cultivator knocking on the door. Judging by the outline of the silhouette, it was a female. System, if something goes wrong, do whatever you want and get me, Gaia, Elodie, and Nightmare the hell out of here. Noted host, even the system sounded serious. Michael slowly made his way to the door and opened it. To his surprise, it was Edith who stood outside his door. What do you want? Michael was not in the mood to entertain Noah's girlfriend. Hence, his tone was not his usual friendly calm one. Edith was slightly surprised by his response. But she didn't show any emotion on her face. After all, she was here to ask Ghost about something important, not to pick a fight with him. Someone is waiting to meet you. I don't have time for this. If they want to meet me, ask them to come here. Michael was about to close the door when Edith put her hand on the door, stopping Michael. Sorry for this, Edith snickered. The next moment, Michael felt the space around him distort. In a blink of an eye, the scenery around him changed from his cozy room to a mountaintop. Michael saw several floating mountains around him. He could tell he was in the Aquilan realm, but not exactly where in the Aquilan realm. My sincerest apologies, Ghost. You left me with no choice. Michael looked over his shoulder and saw Edith. She is a good girl. Just a little bit stubborn, Edith chuckled. Her best friend was the prettiest and on the way to becoming the most powerful woman in the world. Who wouldn't like her? Edith doubted Ghost would be an exception. Who? Asked Michael. He controlled his impulse to rip Edith to shreds for teleporting him without his consent. She was lucky to be Layla's younger sister. You will see. Follow me. Edith led Michael through the snow. There was nothing but snow around him as far as he could see. Michael remained calm. He didn't want to do anything stupid before knowing what was happening. After following Edith for a couple of minutes, Michael almost reached the edge of the floating mountain. He was above the clouds. He could see the puffy clouds stretching endlessly around him. The alchemist robes he wore fluttered chaotically in the wind. After a while, Michael got annoyed and willed the system to equip his black robes. Finally, Edith stopped walking and turned around. Nice, you need to look your best. Edith gave an approving nod. What are we doing here? Asked Michael. You are really lucky, Ghost. Throughout these years, she has received proposals in hundreds. She rejected them all. But for the first time, she showed interest in you. So it's only fair you two meet each other. Michael creased his brows. I know it's sudden, but please stay here and meet her. You will like her, Edith said in a gentle tone. Happiness was visible in her eyes. Michael felt so annoyed and irritated by Edith. He was in the process of leaving Mazeroth for good. Because of her, his plans were getting delayed. Michael, where are you? I am in your room with Eladir. Michael heard Gaia's voice. I'll be with you in a minute, Michael said, turning around to leave. He was about to take a step forward when he sensed a powerful being in his environmental scanning. You asked me who asked you to meet her, right? It's her. Edith looked up. Victoria Barnes. The Princess of Thusia. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 670. Meeting of Michael and Victoria Barnes. The moment Michael heard these words, his mind went blank. A ringing sound continued to resonate in his head. Everything from the images of Ubra's first meeting with Victoria to the sanctuary burning in front of his eyes flashed across him. His body and hands shivered in pure rage. Meanwhile, Victoria landed near Edith. She looked at Ghost's back, having no idea who was in front of her. Lila, said Michael. The name immediately put a frown on Victoria's face. She used the name to infiltrate the sanctuary. Except for Abras, some elders in the sanctuary, General Booth, and her father, no one outside knew the name she used. But somehow, Ghost uttered the name. Edith, on the other hand, thought he had said her elder sister's name. Michael slowly turned around. His eyes were bloodshot. All the veins on his face bulged up. Edith also noticed him shivering. Victoria still didn't figure out his identity because of Michael's beard. With a flick of his wrist, Michael took out a dagger. Edith's body tensed up, but Victoria remained calm. Do you remember me, Lila? Asked Michael, surprising Victoria with his question. His voice was cold. Any oblivious man could sense the deep hatred in his tone. But Victoria had no idea. As far as she knew, he was Ghost. Seeing Victoria have no response, Michael pressed the dagger against his face, slowly shaving the beard. Victoria's heartbeat steadily increased. When Michael shaved his beard completely, her heart skipped a beat. The face of Ghost reminded Lila of someone she had forgotten long ago, Abras. She simply couldn't believe what she was seeing. Abras, Victoria mumbled. The last time she saw Abras, she stabbed him in the heart. There was no way he could have survived the slaughter. But not only had he survived, but he also became a heaven-defying prodigy. In the corner of her mind, she doubted that Abras used the cosmic stream somehow to survive and cultivate. Victoria remembered Abras as a naive, weak, and love-stricken boy from a group who kept the cosmic stream for themselves instead of using it for the betterment of this world. However, Ghost was the exact opposite of Abras. That was the reason Victoria even considered meeting Ghost and thought about marrying him. He was the perfect suitor and the prince for Thusia. He was brutal, cold, and merciless to his enemies. Abras. Edith took a step back. She recalled everything Victoria told about the sanctuary and what the Thusians did to the people who converted the cosmic stream. If Edith was right, Abras was the young man Victoria pretended to be in love with and killed in the end. A necessary action. That's how Victoria justified her actions. Edith was still unclear about how she felt about what Thusians did to the sanctuary. But at least they used cosmic energy to get rid of the plague that swept across Thusia. If not for the cosmic stream, her parents would have died. For that, Edith felt eternally grateful to Victoria and King Maxim. "You survived," Victoria said. Despite the startling truth, Victoria didn't shiver in fear or show any emotion except a slight surprise in her eyes. Although she didn't know how Abras survived, she couldn't let him live. Otherwise, he might expose the cosmic stream's existence to the outside world. "What now, Abras? You want to kill me?" asked Victoria. Granted, Ghost was strong, but she was stronger. She had cosmic energy coursing through her veins. Thinking that she had to kill him again, she almost felt pity for him. It seemed like fate really wanted her to kill Abras. The least she could do for him was end his life painlessly. This time, she didn't have to betray him but look him in the eyes and end his life personally. "Kill you?" To her surprise, Ghost burst into devilish laughter. He threw the dagger aside. "If I wanted to kill you, I would have done it a long time ago." "No, no, no." Michael shook his head. "You took something from me. Now I am going to take everything from you." His words sounded awfully murderous. Even from a distance, Edith could feel the killing intent. On the other hand, Victoria creased her brows. She stepped forward as sparkling blue energy formed a sword in her hand. The sword made of pure cosmic energy. There was no metal or weapon that could withstand the cosmic energy. She had slain hundreds of enemies using the sword, and it was time to put Abras to rest. "To do that, you have to be alive," Victoria scorned. She was about to dash forward when Michael surprised her by dashing toward Edith. Victoria didn't expect Michael to target Edith because Edith had done nothing to him. Arg! Edith didn't react in time. His speed caught Edith off guard. Without giving both the girls any time to react, Michael stabbed Edith in the neck with a needle. "Get away from her!" Victoria raised the sword to cut down Abras. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed, but suddenly Edith collapsed to the ground, screaming in agony. "What did you do?" Victoria's instincts told her to stop. Edith rolled on the ground. Her scream echoed through the floating mountain. Michael laughed. Victoria rushed toward Edith. When she squatted beside Edith, Michael snapped his finger. To Victoria's surprise, Edith stopped screaming. Michael circled around him like a predator stalking its prey. It took a great effort for Michael not to slaughter Victoria right here and then. Victoria helped Edith up. Edith's face was completely pale. A second again, she felt an excruciating pain in every corner of her body. It was like she was being stabbed with hundreds of nails at the same time. But the pain disappeared as soon as Michael snapped his finger. Michael finally finished a full circle around them. "This is just a glimpse of what I am going to do to you and all your loved ones, Lila," said Michael. Victoria clenched her fist. She wanted to cut Abras into pieces. She would have given him a painless death, but now she wanted to make him suffer. "I want you to see everyone you care about suffer. Brick by brick, one by one, I will dismantle your beloved Thusia in front of your eyes. I will raze everything you built to the ground." Michael slowly said these words. "You will beg me to kill you, end your suffering. But I won't grant you any mercy. I will kill your family, slowly and painfully. Just like your people did to mine." "Leave her out of this," Victoria growled. Michael tilted his head, staring at Edith for a moment. He then slowly walked toward Victoria. He came close to the point Victoria could feel his hot breath on her. "Why?" whispered Michael. "She had done nothing to you." "She's innocent," Victoria snarled. She wanted to punch him in the chest, crushing his heart. However, she was afraid that would kill Edith. And she was right. Michael injected Edith with the blood tonic. If he wished, he could end Edith's life with a single snap of his finger. Michael didn't hide this. He let both of them know what he had done to Edith. "I put something of my own inside her. All I need is to snap my fingers to end your friend's little life." Victoria gritted her teeth as Michael coldly smiled. "Or if I wanted, I could enjoy some screaming music." Michael simply moved his brow as Edith collapsed to the ground once again, screaming and rolling in pain. Finally, Victoria couldn't see her friend suffer. She clenched the cosmic sword tighter. She wanted to cut down Obras. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, tsk. Michael shook his head. Patience, Lila. Do you think I only hold your friend's life in my hand? How's Her Highness, Valeria? Victoria's mind went blank. Obras. Victoria growled like a wounded animal. Her eyes turned blood red in anger. You coward. Release my friend and settle this like a man, said Victoria. But Michael laughed. I am not a man. I am the fucking consequences of your actions. Michael glanced at Edith. He willed the system to shut down the nanites in her body. As a result, Edith's pain disappeared. You have no idea what we are capable of, Obras. I destroyed your home once. It won't take me long to do it again. Michael heard Victoria while he was walking away from Victoria. He was afraid he would lose control and slaughter Victoria right on this floating mountain. He didn't want that. As he explained, he wanted Victoria to suffer. Although killing Victoria was as easy as snapping his finger, he had other plans for her. I will destroy Bradford and everyone in it. Then you better pray you can protect your precious cosmic stream from all the great 8 clans and the Skyhole. Because the moment you raise a finger against me, I will expose your dirty little secret. Michael turned around with a devilish grin. Then I will make your friend and your mother scream to death. That be just a glimpse. Michael slowly ascended to the sky. Now go tell your entire kingdom, death is coming. Michael's figure disappeared from Victoria's sight. Silence fell over them. Edith shivered in fear. When she looked into Victoria's eyes, she saw a sign of dread for the first time. Michael may have bluffed about poisoning Valeria, but the moment he leaves Emazaroth, he plans to order Azazel to inject Valeria with the blood tonic. It'd be difficult, but using the spiders and drones, it wasn't an impossible task either. Azazel was more than enough to finish the task. Moreover, Michael's threat to expose the cosmic stream rendered Victoria helpless. Once the cosmic stream's existence gets out, they would be at war with not just kingdoms but with the great 8 clans and the Skyhall itself. Unfortunately, they were still not strong enough to face the Skyhall. Vicky, what are we going to do now? Asked Edith. She was pretty shaken up by Michael's threat. She lived long enough to tell he wasn't bluffing. Every word that came out of his mouth sounded like a promise. We can do only one thing. Victoria took a deep breath. Prepare for the war, said Victoria. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 671. Goodbye Mazeroth. Leaving Victoria and Edith behind, Michael returned to his room using the runic teleportation. He saw Gaia, Eladir, and Nightmare waiting for him in the room. Where were you? Asked Gaia. Judging by the look in her eyes, she was worried sick. We are leaving. Michael's words surprised the trio. But something happened? Asked Eladir. I've been made, Michael sighed. You met Wulfric, didn't you? To Michael's surprise, Eladir didn't look as surprised as Gaia and Nightmare. Michael nodded. Wait, if you're telling me the headmaster recognized you as the Dark Lord, then why did he leave you alone? Asked Nightmare. I don't know why. But we cannot stay here any longer. Michael was adamant about the decision. It was too much of a risk to stay in Mazeroth any longer. Gaia remained silent. They all turned their gazes toward her, wanting to know her thoughts. And I also met Victoria. Before Gaia could open her mouth, Michael said. Our Golden Valley Victoria? Asked Nightmare. Michael shook his head. No. The Princess of Thusia. The bitch who put a sword through my heart and burned my sanctuary to the ground, Victoria Barnes, Michael growled. Did she know you are Obras? Finally, Gaia opened her mouth to question Michael. Nodded Michael. Then let's get the fuck out of here, Gaia agreed with Michael. Instead of staying in Mazeroth and doing nothing, she preferred to get out of the Akilun realm and venture into the treacherous ocean. That way, she could find the wise dragon and inquire about her mother. On the other hand, she knew Michael could get stronger by killing the mutated beings in the place. I am up for it. I hate this place anyways. Eladir agreed to leave Emazaroth without a second thought. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net if you want to read more chapters, Please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed, thanks to Professor Lane, you have permission to leave Azeroth. But what about her? Nightmare looked at Gaia. She's a professor. It would raise some eyebrows if she disappeared suddenly. Nightmare was right. Taking Gaia would be suspicious, for sure. They might even look for Professor Steinmeier. But leaving Gaia behind the enemy lines, especially after knowing his identity had been exposed, Michael had no other choice. Moreover, bringing Gaia and Nightmare to the treacherous ocean would multiply his experience gain. To take on Thusia, he needed to be at his strongest. Be that as it may, if push comes to shove, we can at least fight the Skyhall on our terms. Staying in their territory is not the right move. I agree with him. We have to get out of here. But I have to ask you again, are you sure Wulfric recognized you? Asked Eladir. Do you know why I like winter? It's the perfect balance of light and darkness, as all things should be. Don't you agree? Michael repeated Wulfric's words. That was his words to me. He knows about me. And I found a surveillance spell around me. Someone was watching me all this time. Gaia and Eladir raised their brows. They were completely taken aback by the surprise. He also said that even the strongest blizzards start with a single snowflake. Just like a long blood feud or lifelong friendship start with a single decision. Now connect everything and tell me I am wrong, asked Michael. The longer we stay here, the more we are putting ourselves in. So come on. Michael was about to take a step toward the center of the room where Eladir put the teleportation array when he heard someone knocking on the door. Who's there? Asked Nightmare. You and Eladir. Michael looked at Gaia and Eladir. Get out of here, Michael whispered. Without wasting time arguing, Gaia and Eladir stepped onto the array. Standing atop the carpet, Eladir just waved his hand. The floor suddenly trembled as a golden light enveloped the two of them. It's Ruby, Michael heard Ruby's voice. Give me a minute, said Michael, waiting for Gaia and Eladir to disappear. A golden light flashed across the room. The light quickly disappeared along with Gaia and Eladir, leaving Michael and Nightmare behind. Michael heaved a sigh of relief. Before leaving Azeroth for good, he wanted to say goodbye to Ruby. Even though he only knew Ruby for a few days, she was nothing but a good friend to him. He was still determining when or if he would meet Ruby again. So Michael wanted to talk to Ruby one last time. Of course, Michael wouldn't say he was leaving Azeroth. But when Michael opened his door, he was startled. His eyes of darkness revealed Ruby's real face. The one Michael saw standing outside was Rowena. There was no doubt in his mind. He saw her portraits in Winston Manor too many times to be mistaken. Michael was speechless. He had no idea he was being a good friend to Rowena Winston, the holy freaking maiden of the Skyhall. Even with the upgraded environmental scanning, he was unable to sense her cultivation stage before opening the door. Now that he had seen her with his eyes, he was able to see a cultivation stage, fusion stage level 4. The gentle smile on Ruby's face faded away. She sensed an energy fluctuation in the room as though someone had teleported away. Furthermore, Ghost looked agitated. To Michael's surprise, Ruby sighed and stepped into his room. Unlike everyone in Azeroth, Rowena knew Professor Steinmeier was not what she claimed to be. Rowena had seen through her disguise the moment she saw her with Ghost in Lane's office. The only reason Rowena didn't throw her in prison was that she was with Ghost and seemed to care about him. Rowena did not want to repay the kindness Ghost showed her family by hurting his close one. Regardless, she would have asked the one pretending to be Steinmeier to leave Azeroth and never return. Connecting Ghost's agitated face with the energy distortion in the room, Rowena guessed the fake professor might have left Azeroth. The question was, how did she leave Azeroth? This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. Although Michael learned Ruby's real identity, he didn't act weird. Instead, he pretended to know nothing about her. I thought you went to the arena, said Michael. I was there. But I had a feeling you might be in trouble, said Rowena. To be honest, it wasn't a lie. Rowena really did feel Ghost was in trouble when she was in the arena. It was the same time as Wulfric met him. After hearing some students speak about Wulfric's surprise visit to the House of Alchemists, Rowena really thought Wulfric had caught Ghost helping the one who was pretending to be a professor. If that was the case, Rowena would have used her status as the Holy Maiden to help him and settle her debts to the ghost once and for all. As far as she was concerned, Ghost saved 4 people in her family: Andrews, Sabrina, her mother, and her father. That was 4 lives. So Rowena owed Ghost 4 times. By saving Ghost with the cold flames, she repaid him once. By not exposing Professor Steinmeier and thus getting Ghost into trouble, she repaid him for the 2nd time. In other words, she owes him twice. You felt wrong. I am doing fine, said Michael. He noticed Rowena slowly walking toward the center of the room where Eladir created the teleportation array. His heartbeat slowly increased. Alerting Rowena was equal to alerting the entire Sky Hall. Suppose Rowena knew about his identity too. Like Wulfric, he was good as royally screwed. At that time, he would have no choice but to put Plan F into action. Is that so? Rowena stood where Eladir and Gaia were a moment ago. Nightmare stared at Rowena without blinking an eye. Unlike Michael, Nightmare didn't know Ruby was Rowena. But Nightmare was not stupid either. The way Rowena looked around the room and the way she tapped the floor irked him. Something was definitely wrong. Nightmare knew it. It seems right, said Rowena. She also stepped away from the array. Anyways, are you coming to the arena? Asked Rowena. I will try. You have something to do? Michael smiled. Although Michael felt like she sensed the array, she didn't recognize him as the Dark Lord. Otherwise, she would have reacted differently unless she has put together another trap. Either way, Michael didn't want to stay in Mazeroth anymore. Too many risks. Getting no response from Ghost, Rowena understood he had something personal to deal with. She respected that. Therefore, she made her way out of the room. I will see you soon then, Rowena said after stepping out of his room. She nodded at Michael. After giving him a gentle smile, she walked away. Phew, Michael deeply exhaled. Without wasting time, Michael shut the door. He grabbed Nightmare and walked toward the array. The moment we get out, destroy the array without a trace, Michael ordered the system. He looked at his room and couldn't help feeling a bit of sorrow. If he was a normal guy, he could have cherished this Mazeroth life like the others have. Being the Dark Lord caused him to lose so many things in life. The only way to fix everything was to destroy the Sky Hall once and for all. Now that he had spent some time with Rowena, going against her made his heart heavy. She may have pretended to be Ruby, but his instincts told him she didn't have any ill intention toward him. She was genuine. Besides, she could have left him to die in Lane's office. Instead, she saved him. Michael simply couldn't understand Rowena. But for now, understanding Rowena wasn't on his to-do list. Where are we going? Asked Nightmare. To the treacherous ocean, said Michael. That was just a pit stop before finally venturing into his nemesis homeland, Thusia. It was time for the Thusians to pay for what they did to him. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 672. Returning to the treacherous ocean after leaving Mazeroth, they all arrived at the Dark Forest. Michael ordered Eladir to stay in the Dark Forest, watching over the sect and everything. He then immediately departed from the Dark Forest to the treacherous ocean with Gaia and Nightmare. He left Vidora in Eladir's care. Vidora needed some ancient knowledge, and Eladir was the best person to teach. The last time Michael went to the treacherous ocean, he was with Layla. The Momiers flashed across his mind. Everything started smoothly with Layla, and the shit hit the fan at the end due to Layla's impulse to harness the first energy. Moreover, the system was offline at that time. It restricted Michael's ability. This time, he was filled with anger, motivation, and with Gaia and Nightmare. It took them a day to reach the outskirts of the Rainbow Island where Layla lived. Michael wanted to go visit her and see how her spirit child was doing. However, Michael chose not to. The entire point of why Michael cut his ties with Layla and the kid was to keep them as far as possible from him. Otherwise, if one day his secret were exposed, they would be spared from the backlash. From the Rainbow Island, it took them another day to reach the treacherous ocean. Even in the middle of the day, the treacherous ocean looked dark and gloomy as night. The winter had no effect on the domain. It looked just as he remembered last time. The entire region of the sea was shrouded in a dark mist and stormy clouds. The sound of thunderclaps reverberated the entire sea while violet streaks of lightning kept lighting the gloomy clouds. Michael felt his power growing within him due to all the darkness around him. He floated in the sky for a moment. "Where do we find this wise dragon?" asked Nightmare. "Let me see my map." Gaia pretended to open up a map. "Oh, there is no map. You don't have to be a jerk about it." Nightmare rolled his eyes. "You are a dragon. I expect you to sense him or whatever," said Gaia. Michael remained silent. He was in the process of controlling his anger. Ever since he met Victoria, he couldn't achieve peace of mind. "Let's go," said Michael before moving forward. He could distract his mind by killing the mutated beings in the treacherous ocean. "Take the perception pills," Michael ordered Gaia and Nightmare. With a nod, Gaia flicked her wrist. A couple of sparkling blue pills appeared in her palm. She threw one into her mouth and offered the other one to Nightmare. Although Nightmare had a special vision to see his environment, he swallowed the pill, just to be safe. The more they flew forward, the louder the thunderclaps sounded. It was as though they were entered into a raging storm. Michael slowly descended toward the island covered in the mist. Unlike before, Michael was able to see everything around him despite the thick mist. He immediately took out the drones and sent them flying in every direction to recon the place. When Michael visited the treacherous ocean previously, he had the death aura of Nightmare, hiding his presence from the beings that inhabited the treacherous ocean. Considering Nightmare was well and healthy, he didn't have any aura to hide his presence. This chapter upload first at Novel.bin.net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel.next.com to experience faster update speed. As a result, Michael sensed several hostile beings rushing toward him from every direction. Nightmare and Gaia didn't plan to get caught off guard. They both sensed the activity around them using their own senses. "Leave it to me." Nightmare leaped into the air from Gaia's shoulder. His size grew rapidly until he reached his full size. Even though Nightmare still hadn't reached his full size, he was still a terrifying 90 feet long dragon. With the dark horns growing out of his head, Nightmare looked like a demonoid dragon. With a single flap of his large wings, Nightmare pushed back the mist covering them. The mutated beings hiding within the mist got exposed by Nightmare's action. At that moment, Michael and Gaia saw several creatures. Most of them seemed humanoid with typical features like 2 hands and 2 legs. But all of them were shriveled and radiated a strong putrid stench. These creatures were once humans, elves, and orcs who ventured into the treacherous ocean to unmask the mystery behind the dragon clan's disappearance. But they lost their lives and were consumed by the mist. Finally, they were turned into these mutated beings that mindlessly attacked any living being that stepped onto the island. Nightmare breathed fire on them mercilessly, turning them into nothing but ashes. Michael heard the system notifications continually ringing in his head. The number of experience points rapidly increased to the point he had received almost 80,000. Finally, after turning every mutated being to ashes, Nightmare returned to his previous size and landed on Gaia's shoulder. Michael and Gaia continued to venture deeper and deeper into the treacherous ocean. Nightmare used his dragon breath to burn them to a crisp every time they got swarmed with mutated beings. "Why don't you stretch your muscles a bit?" asked Gaia. "It'd be a good way to warm up before the big war with Wuxia. If you're trying to distract my mind off Wuxia, it's not working," said Michael. "Well, I have to try. Look, we both are in a kind of a pickle here. You want Wuxia destroyed and I want my mother found. Both are not the same, Gaia. Your mother is alive. But everyone I grew up with is not." Gaia halted her steps. She grabbed Michael by his shoulder before turning him to look him in the eyes. Michael may not have said a word or seemed calm as usual, but Gaia knew his mind was seething with anger. She didn't blame him. She doubted she could have let Victoria live after meeting her again if she was in his shoes. "I won't say giving a warning about you are coming is a smart move. You wanted them to live in fear, so be it. But get your head in the game. We are in one of the most dangerous places in this world. Just like you always say, you won't see things clearly if you're blinded with anger." Michael knew she was right, at least about him being angry. I want them to be at their strongest when I crush them. Only by then, they will feel helpless, desperate, and beg me to forgive them. Let them prepare. Let them get every ally they have to their side, Michael growled. His eyes glimmered with killing intent. She had never seen Michael like this before. Human, Gaia smiled, cupping his face gently. This chapter upload first at novelbin.net. We will end them together. If it makes you feel better, I already have a plan in my mind for Thuja's total annihilation. You do? Nightmare tilted his head. Of course I do. Let's walk and talk. With Michael and Nightmare by her side, she almost forgot she was in the treacherous ocean. Instead, she treated this place like a park. As Gaia said, she put her hand around Michael's shoulder and moved forward. The Thujans destroyed 2 kingdoms and are currently at war with 3. The enemies of my enemy are my friends, right? So we rally them against the Thujans. With your endless supply of potions and the combined army, we will destroy Thujia brick by brick, just the way you like it. Why can't we just create a plague and spread it throughout the Thusian army and kill them single-handedly? He is not a lunatic, Lizard. You cannot control the plague once it starts to spread. The people who live in Thujia did nothing to him. We cannot become the thing the Sky Hall and the Guardians say we will, Michael nodded. But he knew that wasn't the only reason he avoided spreading a plague. The Thujans were in possession of a divine power source that was far beyond any mortal's comprehension. If Michael spread the plague, Maxim Barnes would use the cosmic stream to cure the plague. It would not only cure the army, but also power them up. It would be such a pity for the cosmic stream to be used in mortals. Instead, Michael wanted it for himself and everyone in the Order. Once he and his Order absorbed the cosmic energy with the system's help, they would have the edge they desperately need. Plus, fighting an army powered by cosmic energy might force him to use darkness, which might expose his secret to the outside world. Gaia explained all her plans in greater detail while moving forward. Talking about war, destruction, and killing took Gaia's mind off of worrying about her mother. Continuing onwards, they suffered constant attacks from the mutated beings. With each wave of the attack, the number of hostiles that attacked them increased significantly. They moved steadily through the fog for 7 continuous hours before passing through the region of fog and reaching the outskirts of the treacherous ocean. The mist became so thick that they could barely see anything. Thanks to Michael's X-ray vision, he was able to locate the multiple illusion arrays around him. Last time, the arrays made him hallucinate Spectre, which wasn't a great experience for Michael. Lightning bolts crackled around Michael's hands. He sent several bolts in all directions, destroying the source point of the illusion arrays. In a few seconds, he destroyed all the arrays around them. When Eve knows we are going to war with Thujia, that crazy girl would be the first one to rush to the battlefield. Suddenly, Gaia thought about Eve. Speaking of Eve, Michael remembered the artifact that could enable him to break curses, a legendary skill. Eventually, they felt a bit exhausted and wanted to take some rest. The place was desolate and dangerous, with no trees or caves to take shelter. But he didn't need anything when he had the system. He just bought a couple of comfy chairs from the system and lit a campfire to warm their bodies. Fortunately, the mutated beings temporarily stopped attacking, probably because there were no mutated beings in this part of the treacherous ocean. Michael leaned back on his chair. He took a quick look at his status. Nightmare's kills gave him nearly 200,000 experience points. As a result, he reached fusion stage level 9. Half immortal stage, here I come, Michael thought in his mind. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 673. Using the Soul Eater again. Only Nightmare was able to sleep on Gaia's lap, curling himself into a ball. They too were deep in thought. For Gaia, it was her mother. For Michael, it was Victoria and everything the Thujans did to him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the burning sanctuary. He heard his friends scream only to get slaughtered by the Thusian soldiers. Those soldiers didn't show any mercy, not even to the little ones. In Michael's mind, the elders weren't blameless either. They had a divine power source for centuries, yet they didn't even bother to use it. The cosmic stream remained useless in the sanctuary. Michael decided long ago not to make the same mistakes the elders did. The moment he destroyed Thuxia, he would absorb the cosmic stream, or if he couldn't, he would destroy it so no one could use it in the future. Do you have any clues about finding this wise dragon? Gaia leaned forward. The last time you came here, did you see any pathways, hidden entrances, or any signs of a dragon? She asked. My drones are searching this place as we speak. If a dragon is living here, we will find it, said Michael. You better find a cure for my mother. I don't want her to suck my blood when I am asleep, Gaia chuckled. I am telling you again, the cure will only get rid of a vampire's bloodlust and weakness for sunlight. Their abilities like immunity to magic attacks, speed, and strength will stay the same, so she will be like us? Gaia asked after giving Michael's words a little thought. Let's find another vampire and try that cure first on him. Then, we can move on to your mother. We should definitely do that. They spent the following minutes discussing Eve, Thuxia, and Adelia. Then, their conversation slowly moved toward the Blood Prince. To be honest, Michael didn't have a solid plan to deal with the Blood Prince. First, he needed to gather more information about the Blood Prince. It was a pity he left Mazeroth. Professor Lane and Gilrine seemed to have a lot of knowledge about one. Fortunately, they had Lord information to turn to. As they were conversing, the ground suddenly trembled in a rhythm as though something huge was stepping toward them. Michael immediately rose from his chair. He sensed a soul-refining stage being appear in the environmental scanning. Judging by the tremor, Michael knew whatever that's coming their way must be a colossal-size monster. Michael, what the hell is happening? Gaia held Nightmare in one hand and tried to balance herself. They quickly shot into the air. When they reached the sky, they were stunned by what they saw. A colossal skeleton was on its way toward them. It was a dragon, not just any dragon, a skeleton dragon. With each step the dragon took, the ground trembled. The dragon had an overall length of 400 feet, a wingspan of 350 feet, and a height of almost 80 feet. This chapter upload first at NovelBin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit NovelNext.com to experience faster update speed compared to this skeletal dragon. Nightmare was a puppy. The dragon moved his head left and right as though it was searching for something. Michael looked into the two holes where the eyes should have been and saw no light of life. He never expected to encounter a mutated dragon this early in the journey. Damn, it'd be a pity to smash this dragon to pieces. We could sell it for millions, Gaia sighed. Despite the dragon's colossal size, it was only a soul-refining stage level 4 beast. With her soul-refining stage level 6 cultivation, she could smash into pieces. Of course, she would have a difficult time defeating it, but Gaia was absolutely positive she could beat the dragon. Michael shared the same thought as Gaia. In the Aqua auction, Layla bought a full dragon skeleton for a whopping 4 billion gold coins. Since this skeleton was at the soul-refining stage level 4, Michael could at least get 1 billion, auctioning the dragon. But first, he must defeat the dragon without smashing it into pieces. Luckily for Michael, unlike undead, these mutated beings had souls. Their souls were corrupted and twisted to the point there was no fix for their souls. Corrupted or not, they had souls. If they had souls, Michael could use Soul Eater to preserve their physical bodies. In this case, he could kill the dragon without destroying its body. Thanks to Michael's recent upgrade spree, the Soul Eater could devour the soul of any cultivator under the fusion stage. Some weak-willed enemies' souls could be devoured immediately. The others who had strong resolve and powerful souls required Michael to weaken them before devouring their souls. The spell was meant to be used when Michael was in his complete Lucifer form, where the cloud of darkness and death range would weaken an enemy's resolve. But even though Michael was in the treacherous ocean, he still didn't use his Lucifer persona. What if someone was watching him? According to the system, there were no more surveillance spells around him. Still, Michael wanted to be safe rather than sorry. The skeleton dragon slowly approached them. Gaia turned her head to the side to see Michael looking at the dragon nonchalantly. He cracked his neck. "Stay here," said Michael. Just a thought about casting the lightning dash spell resulted in himself being surrounded by golden lightning bolts. They danced around his body. Gay heard the low-pitched sound of crackling lightning bolts around him. In a blink of an eye, he dashed toward the dragon, leaving a trail of golden streaks. Sensing Michael's presence, the dragon locked its gaze on Michael. Its thunderous roar echoed through the treacherous ocean. When Michael reached closer, the dragon opened its mouth to swallow him. Michael looked tiny in front of its jaw. Wind blast. Michael cast the wind blast to disorient the dragon for a moment. The blast of wind created a deafening boom sound when it collided with the dragon's head. The dragon jerked its head to the side due to the wind blast's force. Michael punched the dragon right between the two holes in its head without giving the dragon any time to react. Several cracks formed in the dragon's head despite Michael suppressing his strength. From afar, Gaia saw the dragon stumbling. Michael didn't stop with one punch. He flew to the side and punched the dragon in the jaw. His punch created a thunderous shock wave. He continued to rain down punch after punch. Cracked skeleton is better than no skeleton, right? Gaia said to herself. Any oblivious man could tell Michael was using the dragon as a punching bag to vent his anger. It was indeed a good outlet for the anger raging within him. The dragon's colossal size had become its ultimate bane. It couldn't keep up with Michael's speed. A normal fusion stage cultivator would have fought the dragon in a bloody battle, using all their strength and spells. But even a prodigy like Layla couldn't have fought like Michael. He bullied the dragon. The darkness in the treacherous ocean, coupled with his anger, boosted his power to the point he almost destroyed the dragon's head with just punches alone. Finally, the dragon's roar sounded weak. It exhausted its strength, trying to bite Michael. When the dragon was at its weakness, Michael landed on its head. He stared into its eyes, feeling the corrupted soul residing within. The dragon started to shake its head left and right frantically. It tried to throw Michael away. But Michael held onto its head, continuing to stare into the dragon's eyes. The dragon roared, looking at the sky. Seeing the dragon violently shaking its head, Gaia threw Nightmare into the air. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net, wake up, damn lizard, she dashed toward Michael. Meanwhile, Nightmare woke up in shock. Despite the dragon's roar and all the commotion, Nightmare was sleeping peacefully. When Gaia threw him in the air, he was forced to wake up. He was taken aback by surprise. A huge skeletal dragon was wiggling its body. When Nightmare looked closer, he saw Michael standing atop its head. Now, Gaia joined the fight. She punched the dragon in the side of its face. She went under the dragon's chin and grabbed the bones using all her might. As a result, the dragon's wriggling slowed down. Michael was able to feel the corrupted soul once again. Still, the corrupted soul fought against Michael's soul-eating stare. Michael didn't give up. He focused more on devouring the soul more. He elbowed the dragon on the head to weaken the dragon further. Finally, a grayish smoke slowly rose within the two dark holes. It was the corrupted soul. Soul transferring initiated. The dragon roared. Its roar was much weaker than earlier. Michael tightened his grasp and opened his mouth, rapidly devouring the soul. The white smoke shot straight into Michael's mouth. Eventually, the smoke stopped, and the dragon collapsed to the ground, moving no more. Once the dragon hit the ground, it created a tremor several times stronger than a typical earthquake. Additionally, it created a thick cloud of dust around the dragon. Ding! Congrats to the host for killing a soul-refining stage, Level 4 mutated dragon. The reward is 300,000 experience points as well as 20,000 badass points. The Soul Eater has absorbed the soul of the mutated dragon. The host has received 100,000 experience points. In total, Michael received 400,000 experience points. Compared to Wilcast's soul, he received 5 times the experience points by devouring the skeletal dragon's soul. It was several times eviler and more corrupt than Wilca's. Hence, the increase in experience points. Killing the dragon was the easy part. Now the real trouble began when Michael thought about transporting the skeleton from the treacherous ocean to R where he could auction it in the Aqua Palace. I feel creeped out when you use that spell, Michael heard Gaia's voice behind him. You've only seen me using it once, said Michael, staring at the dragon from above. You have a plan to move that thing? Nightmare came to their side. System. Still trying to learn how to transport the skeleton, Michael turned to the system. The skeleton is too big to teleport. The host can pay 100,000 badass points to dismantle the skeleton. Another 100,000 for teleporting the bones to a choice of your base of operation. And finally, another 100,000 badass points for assembling the skeleton. So a total of 300,000 badass points. Michael was surprised by the system because the system quoted an amount way less than he had actually imagined. So Michael quickly agreed. Dismantle and teleport it to the dark forest. I will assemble it later. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 674. The Wise Dragon. After killing the skeletal dragon and teleporting it to the dark forest, Michael, Gaia, and Nightmare resumed their journey without a destination. They roamed around the misty island aimlessly, killing whatever comes in their way. Unfortunately for Michael, he didn't get to kill anything stronger than a core-strengthening stage being. He didn't even bother to raise a finger as he let Nightmare get some battle experience. It was time Nightmare forged his own path under Michael's watchful eyes. After all, Nightmare was no longer a child that needed to be taken care of. He had reached the core-strengthening stage. The only weakness Michael saw in Nightmare was his kindness. Unfortunately, it often made Nightmare look weak rather than kind. Although Nightmare seemed to be supporting Michael in his thoughts to destroy Wuxia, Michael knew Nightmare wanted to avoid all the bloodshed. He wasn't wrong though. If it were any other situation, Michael would have wanted the same. He himself wasn't a big fan of wars. But Wuxia must be destroyed. Michael was not a saint to return an evil act with kindness. He would do anything to see Victoria and her family suffer. Through the mist, Michael led Gaia and Nightmare forward. His senses were heightened to detect any threats nearby. Suddenly, Michael stopped flying. "Why are we stopping?" asked Gaia. "The drones were destroyed," said Michael. A moment ago, he felt the connection between him and a few drones suddenly severed. He closed his eyes briefly for a moment, ordering the system to locate the destroyed drones. "I hope it's the Wise Dragon," Gaia nervously smiled. Without wasting any time, Michael grabbed Gaia's hand and cast the ignition to reach the destination as fast as he could. The scenery around them did not change. Everyone was still covered in mist. He triggered a couple of illusion arrays but destroyed them all within a few seconds. They weren't strong enough to pose a threat to Michael anymore. In a couple of minutes, they traveled quite a long distance. To their surprise, the mist suddenly disappeared. Instead, they were stuck in a dome made of bone-chilling ice. "What is this place?" asked Gaia. She rubbed her shoulders to create some much-needed warmth. Nightmare tried to breathe fire, but he simply couldn't. The coldness affected Nightmare's ability to breathe fire. Gaia looked around the dome to see an entrance. She couldn't even find out how she entered the dome when she turned back. It was obvious that ice closed the gap they entered. Several questions emerged in their minds. First of them was, where were they? As they were looking around, Michael sensed a powerful being in the area with them. "Something's here," said Michael. According to his senses and the environmental scanning, the being was a fusion stage being. Although he sensed the being, he couldn't see it. He quickly used his thermal vision, looking at his surroundings once again. Shock and surprise welcomed Michael. An invisible foe slowly approached them. Judging by the silhouette, it was definitely a colossal dragon. Regardless of the dragon's size, it moved like a ninja, making no sound. Unlike Michael, Gaia couldn't see the dragon. "Are we playing hide and seek?" asked Michael. The dragon stopped moving. "I can see you," said Michael. The dragon stared at Michael for a few moments. They could have seen the surprise in the dragon's eyes if the dragon wasn't invisible. Finally, the dragon revealed itself by dispelling the invisibility spell around it. Michael raised his brows as he stood before a towering colossal dragon. It was just as big as the skeletal dragon but more powerful and terrifying. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. Large emerald eyes sat concealed within the dragon's rounded, narrow skull, giving the dragon a rather menacing appearance. Several enormous horns sit atop its head, just above its wide, cat-like ears. Large fan-like skin and bone structures ran down the sides of each of its jaw lines. Its nose was small and had two short, pointy nostrils. There was a small horn on its chin. Several rows of large teeth poked out from the side of its mouth and gave a slight hint of the terror hiding inside. The dragon's thick neck ran down from its head and into a long body. The top was covered in curved icy blue scales, and a row of small fan-like growths ran down its spine. Its bottom was covered in small scales and was colored much lighter than the rest of its body. Four muscular limbs carried its body, allowing the creature to stand towering and proud. Each limb had 4 digits, each of which ended in thick claws seemingly made of silver. Horrendous wings grew, starting from its shoulders and ending at the middle of its back. The wings were bat-like, with a specialized layer of skin and armor-like scales growing on top of the wing's primary bones. Its graceful tail ended in a fan-like tip, covered in the same curved scales as its body. A puff of chill smoke puffed out of its nostrils as the dragon moved its head down. The dragon slowly moved its long neck around Michael. A human, a naga, and a forest dragon. Quiet, a strange party, the dragon spoke in a gruff, beastly voice. The voice was both terrifying and soothing at the same time. Michael couldn't help but feel a wise man vibe from the dragon. It had a certain wise old grandpa aura around it. "Do you happen to be the wise dragon by any chance?" asked Gaia. The dragon stood tall. A glint of pride emerged in its obsidian eyes. "I am known by many names. And yes, Wise Dragon is indeed one of them and the most befitting name of them all," said the dragon. Gaia's heart trembled. She couldn't believe her luck. She had found the wise dragon just as the vampire instructed her to. Adelia Ashton. What do you know about her?" Gaia didn't beat around the bush. She immediately questioned the wise dragon. To their surprise, the dragon burst into laughter. "You are a courageous one. Many would have wet their pants. But you have the galls to question me. Is it why you are here? Searching for this Adelia?" The dragon asked. It seemed amused by Gaia's question. Michael remained silent, letting Gaia question the dragon. Since the dragon was at the fusion stage 10, Michael didn't have a need to be afraid. If push comes to shove, Michael could turn into the Dark Lord and kill the dragon unless the dragon was stronger than it seemed. Why else would someone come to this death trap? "Please, wise dragon, I must find her." Gaia sounded desperate. The dragon grinned, revealing its razor-sharp teeth. It somewhat looked like an oldie cunning fox in Michael's eyes. "If you survived this far and reached me without dying, that means you 3 are anything but ordinary. And Wise Dragon likes to deal with beings like you. So yes, I will tell you about the one you asked about." However, the dragon paused, lowering its head. They all felt the bone-chilling cold radiating from the dragon. As the dragon moved closer to them, the cold temperature became colder. "Nothing is free in this world. You need to give Wise Dragon something to get something," said the wise dragon. "Name your price." "Gold, artifacts, gems, anything," said Gaia. The wise dragon snickered. "This chapter upload first at Novelbin.net. Do I look ordinary to you, Naga? I am the proudest dragon of them all. I collect something far more valuable than all the things you named." "You collect knowledge," Michael interjected the wise dragon. "Knowledge is wealth," he said. The dragon nodded. "Knowledge is what I seek," said the wise dragon. Gaia quickly looked at Michael. When it comes to knowledge, there was no one better than Michael. He performed countless miracles and hoped he would perform another one with the wise dragon. "Do you accept blueprints of contraptions and legendary alchemy recipes?" asked Michael. "It depends on how heaven-defying they are. You should know that I have lived for thousands of years, hoarding knowledge. There is a little among of blueprints and recipes that I don't know. They are my own. So you can't find them anywhere," said Michael. The wise dragon noticed the confidence in his eyes. As a royal dragon who hoarded knowledge, the wise dragon had the ability to judge people. The human before it was anything but normal. So the wise dragon decided to give the human a chance. "So be it. Let me see what you have," the wise dragon said. Michael simply flicked his wrist, taking out the blueprint to build spiders and the recipe for molten plague. The two golden parchments slowly floated toward the wise dragon. When the parchments reached its eye line, two round mirrors materialized before its eyes. It made the dragon look like he was wearing glasses. The wise dragon studied the parchments cautiously without missing a single letter. They all wondered how the wise dragon planned to evaluate the authenticity of the parchments. After all, one could easily write a fake recipe and blueprint to fool someone. But deep down, they felt it was near impossible to fool a powerful being that literally calls itself the wise dragon. To their surprise, a copper cauldron along with a purple flame appeared before the dragon. Following the appearance of the cauldron and the fire, several ingredients named in the recipe materialized above the cauldron and the fire. The wise dragon began to brew the potion, but it lacked one ingredient, a blood sample of a molten plague's victim. So instead of the blood, the dragon added a green liquid. If Michael was right, that green liquid would simulate the characteristic of the molten plague blood. Finally, a purplish glistening liquid floated out of the cauldron. The wise dragon whiffed the air. This is indeed a rare potion, as you've claimed. I lack the real plague strain, but your recipe is legit. The dragon's eyes sparkled. Gaia sighed. The dragon's greedy look in his eyes was evident in its acceptance. Michael wondered how the wise dragon was planning to validate the blueprint. Could the dragon build spider using the blueprint? Michael felt curious. Chapter 675. The double-cross. The wise dragon inspected the blueprint. Its eyes almost furrowed. Several minutes later, the wise dragon slowly turned its head aside. A broken drone flew toward the dragon. The wise dragon gently caught the drone and showed it to Michael. In the dragon's hand, the drone looked tiny as an ant. This device is the same as the one in the blueprint, except for its design. The wise dragon was surprisingly correct. When one boils it down, the spiders and drones shared the same architecture and functionalities, except the drones could fly and the spiders couldn't. Plus, Michael was surprised to see that the wise dragon had broken the drone without breaking it apart completely. Yes. Is that enough for you to give us the information about Adelia? Asked Michael. But the dragon shook its head. A cunning, basically a devilish grin emerged on its face. Knowledge like this is enough before I know how desperate she is for the knowledge I have. So the price went up. Give me one more like this and I'll share my knowledge with you. Gaia clenched her fist. Nightmare quickly squeezed Gaia's shoulder with his claws, wordlessly telling her to remain calm and let Michael deal with it. When it comes to battle, brute killing force, Gaia was the best. But when it comes to negotiating, tricking, and outsmarting powerful beings such as the wise dragon, Michael was the best choice. That didn't mean Gaia couldn't do all this. In fact, she was on par with Michael in trickery. However, she was emotionally involved in this matter. She would do anything to find her mother without giving a thought to her actions. What else? Michael asked himself. There was his dark flames, the primordial flame that no one had heard or known about. There was also the fact he is the Dark Lord, who could snap the dragon's head to the other side. But Michael can't divulge knowledge that puts him in danger with the wise dragon. I have something, but it's not a recipe or a blueprint. Intangible knowledge, something related to the southern continent's void. I know why no one can cultivate in the southern continent. That's not new, said the wise dragon. But do you know the origin of the reason? Where did it come from, and who controls it? Asked Michael. I know, the dragon snickered. Michael was surprised inside. The wise dragon did seem to know a whole lot and deserved the name the wise dragon. How about why it stays there? Do you know that? Asked Michael. The wise dragon's eyes sparkled once again. Silence fell over them. The wise dragon was tempted. I'll tell you this after you tell us what you know about Adelia, said Michael. The sparkling eyes immediately turned predatory. The wise dragon lowered its head, sending a puff of bone-chilling air out of its nostrils. Are you negotiating? I can kill you before you bat an eye. You're sorely mistaken if you think cultivation stages decide our power. I know. But what if you raise the price once again? As the wise dragon, you know you can't blame me for thinking like that. Give us the information, and I will share my knowledge with you. Like you said, you can kill us before we bat an eye, if you think the knowledge is not worth the price. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed. The wise dragon once again laughed at Michael's courage and the way he conducted himself. He was neither too afraid nor too haughty. One would be surprised how many humans the wise dragon has met and dealt with over the years. This human was special. Adelia Ashton, the Queen of Nagaland, the wise dragon said, slowly moving its head higher and higher. She came here searching for a cure to her vampirism. She offered me something, and I gave her the cure. Michael would be lying if he said he wasn't surprised by the wise dragon's words. No one expected Adelia to get the cure. If she did, why was she still hiding from the world? Could the vampires be the reason? The wise dragon's answer created many new questions in their heads. Where did she go next? I didn't need irrelevant, useless knowledge such as her destination or her plans. Gaia's words were cut short by Michael. He raised his hand. Now it's your turn, said the wise dragon. Michael took a deep breath. It's searching for artifacts that hold some kind of energy within. It has found 12 artifacts until now and tasked me to find the remaining 18. The wise dragon's eyes went wide. Any oblivious man could tell the wise dragon was in shock. For a few moments, the dragon didn't even breathe. It just stood there like a statue in shock. If he tells us what he gave her, we might be able to find her, Gaia whispered to Michael. He was aware of that. But he doubted the wise dragon was kind enough to share that knowledge or any knowledge. He was a collector who hoarded valuable knowledge, and every collector has something that they wouldn't give it away no matter the price. Thank you for your help, wise dragon. If you may, we will take our leave, Michael slightly bowed. He was about to turn when the dragon took a step forward. Web-like cracks formed on the icy floor. Everything trembled. What the dash? Before she could finish her thought, bone-chilling ice covered her. In a blink of an eye, she was crystallized and stuck inside an ice block with Nightmare on her shoulder. The wise dragon didn't give Michael time to react. Instead, it exhaled a chilling air that brushed past Michael, chaining his arms and legs to the floor beneath. Michael tried to wiggle the chains, yet he couldn't. I was right. You are special. I cannot risk you getting yourself killed. You should be in my collection. The wise dragon's tone completely changed. It sounded like a maniacal murderer instead of wise and calm. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net, after I get everything you have, said the wise dragon. It double-crossed Michael. Nightmare and Gaia didn't move an inch. They were frozen inside the block of ice. The wise dragon moved its head left and right as though it was searching for something. But suddenly, it noticed the calmness on Michael's face. The wise dragon was surprised. It just froze his loved one. Anyone could tell Michael loved Gaia and Nightmare by the way he looked at them, let alone the wise dragon. Moreover, the wise dragon noticed the matching rings in their hands. It was evident the Naga and the human planned to marry each other. Yet, the human remained calm. He didn't scream her name or even turn back to look at her. All he did was remain calm. Aren't you going to beg for their lives and yours? Asked the wise dragon. For a wise dragon, you are pretty stupid, Michael snickered. The wise dragon bore its teeth in anger. Its eyes glowed with fury. Due to its anger, the temperature fell further down. As a result, a thick layer of ice formed on Michael's robes. You hoard knowledge. You do not share them. After all, you are a dragon, and dragons don't share. Even that little guy. Michael looked over his shoulder at Nightmare. Don't share anything easily. So I knew the double-cross was coming before you thought about double-crossing, said Michael, surprising the wise dragon. Ah, the wise dragon burst into laughter. His laugh echoed through the icy dome. So you should have known Adelia didn't leave this place alive, right? The wise dragon asked. She is alive, and we both know it, said Michael. Eladir created a rune that gets passed on from one wraith to another. According to Eladir, wherever a wraith dies, all their knowledge, ancestry, and their duty to the order would be passed to the next of kin. Suppose Adelia died, Gaia would have inherited everything through the rune. Since that didn't happen, Michael knew Adelia is still alive. Hey, Ray, something you don't know, Michael slowly said. The wise dragon noticed the place growing darker and darker. Thunder rumbled in the sky above. Through the icy roof, the wise dragon saw streaks of lightning flash across the sky. Suddenly, the chains shackling the human cracked. To the wise dragon's utter shock, a dark flame coiled around his hands, melting the unbreakable icy chains. Furthermore, a dark shroud enveloped him. His robes soon transformed into black armor and a cape. Soon, a terrorizing dark skull mask covered his face. I am the god of darkness. The dark flames completely melted the icy chains. Thick bolts of lightning shot out of his body when Michael snapped his finger. The wise dragon was caught off guard. Michael was in his full Lucifer form. Hence, he became a half-immortal. The wise dragon's decision to stay in the fusion stage bit the dragon in the butt. It wanted to find a way to ensure its absolute safety when crossing the heavenly tribulation to reach the half-immortal stage. The sole reason the wise dragon chose to live in the treacherous ocean was it believed the dragon clan's disappearance held the answer to many questions related to the dragons. Unfortunately, the wise dragon wasn't so wise when it decided to double-cross Michael. Greediness blinded the dragon's brain. The wise dragon thought it could find some clues about the dragon clan through the Hydra slumbering in the southern continent. But it dared not to venture into the southern continent and ask the Hydra because it was nothing but suicidal. So once the wise dragon learned the human had met and conversed with the Hydra, it wanted to capture him. A bad move. Now, the wise dragon had to pay for its mistakes. Crackling lightning bolts coiled around Michael, creating a buzzing sound of electricity. The dark flames covering him were hot enough to melt the block of ice Gaia was trapped within. Michael slowly walked toward the wise dragon. The lightning bolts shooting out from him hit the dragon left and right, without giving it any time to react. The wise dragon screamed. You were right about one thing. The cultivation stage doesn't decide our powers. Who we are does, said Michael. Despite your size, power, and knowledge, I didn't want to know about you. Do you know why? Because to me, you're just a stupid overgrown lizard. The number of lightning bolts that shot out from Michael's body increased significantly. Each bolt was powerful enough to penetrate the dragon's scales. Blood spurted out everywhere. I will make you a deal. Tell me what Adelia told you. Choose not to, your pursuit of knowledge will end here. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 676, God-killing arrows bombarded by the lightning bolts. The wise dragon finally fell to the ground. The ground shook and cracked open in multiple places. Plus, the shock wave sent Nightmare and Gaia stumbling back a few feet. Michael put his feet atop the wise dragon, pressing its head further down. The dragon tried to flap its wings to escape, but an invisible force prevented doing so. A sliver of fear slowly clutched the dragon's heart. The dragon no longer looked menacing. Instead, its round eyes gave a pitiful look. Seeing the wise dragon under Michael's feet, Gaia rushed toward the dragon. On her way, she herself transformed into the Dark Queen. You shouldn't have double-crossed us. Nightmare shook his head, almost feeling pity for the wise dragon. People who mess with them would face only one thing, death. Inside Michael's head, the system notification continuously rang without a stop. His badass points soared through from nearly 100,000 to 400,000. The way Michael surprised the wise dragon and broke the chains earned him the 300,000 badass points in mere moments. Now tell me what Adelia told her, Michael growled. His voice terrified the wise dragon. Moreover, Michael released the fear toxin from his APD to scare the dragon. He wanted to break the dragon before getting what he wanted. As Michael expected, the wise dragon resisted him. You are desperate to find her. God or no God, you can't kill me, the wise dragon arrogantly chuckled. But she can hurt you, said Michael. Gaia didn't need him to tell her twice. Immediately, She took out a crimson-red dagger. She raised the dagger. Without even Gaia telling, Nightmare breathed fire onto the dagger, turning the blade brighter and brighter. Gaia placed the burning hot dagger against the wise dragon's face, just a few inches beneath his eyes. What dash? Gaia stabbed the wise dragon, cutting its words short. Blood immediately spurted out from the wound. Michael saw the dagger for the first time. She told him about this dagger Gilrine gave her when she went hunting with him. Despite its rather ordinary look, the dagger was able to pierce through the dragon's scales. Arghar! The wise dragon screamed. It had been decades since the wise dragon had experienced pain. But no matter how much the dragon screamed, Gaia did not stop. She twisted the dagger inside to cause more pain. This is gonna leave a mark, wise dragon. Michael emphasized the words wise dragon in a ridiculing manner. Tell us what she told you. Gaia shouted. You really should tell them. Otherwise, they will make you beg for death, said Nightmare. Still, the wise dragon did not break. As a result, Gaia drew the dagger out and held the pointy end just a few inches above the dragon's eyeball. Do you like reading? Pumptia? Gaia threatened. Meanwhile, the fear toxin's effects slowly corroded the wise dragon's valor. The dagger hanging above his eyes didn't help him either. The wise dragon panicked. Although dragons perceived the world in a different manner, they still needed eyes. Without them, the dragons were as good as dead. How could he hoard knowledge without his eyes? The wise dragon trembled in fear. Seeing the fear in the dragon's eyes, Michael snickered. Last chance. Unlike you, I don't double-cross. Tell us what Adelia told you, and I'll let you live. Gaia brought down the dagger, almost touching the dragon's eyeball. The wise dragon panicked. It trembled violently. Nonetheless, it couldn't even move a muscle, as though an invisible hand was pressing its body against the ground. I heard this line too many times. You will let me go and she'll stab me. Then, you will. I didn't say anything about her killing you. Michael almost broke character and laughed. The wise dragon was too wise for his sake. Its words were simply too funny. Okay, let me rephrase my words. We won't kill you, not me, not her, not my dragon. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed. How can I dash? Stab him, said Michael, interrupting the wise dragon's words. Gaia raised the dagger to bring it down upon the dragon's eyes with her full might. No! The wise dragon shouted as Gaia's hands stopped in midair. Tell you, just don't hurt me, that's a good wise dragon. Michael patted the dragon's face. She told me about the god-killing arrows forged by the Sky Hall founders. Michael creased his brows. What else? He growled. His voice became colder. She said there are 5 arrows, each of them scattered around the world. That's all I know, said the wise dragon. But did you try to kill her as you did to us? Gaia punched the wise dragon with the hilt of her dagger. Any dragon would have growled in fury if they weren't affected by the fear toxin. Tell me more about these arrows, wise dragon. Michael moved closer to the wise dragon to look it in the eyes. I gave the cure to her, she teleported away. I don't know more. The wise dragon was wise enough not to mention it tried to kill her, resulting in Adelia using a teleportation scroll. System, do you know anything about these arrows? Can you track them down? Michael asked the system. He didn't see any other way to find them as the wise dragon really seemed to have no idea about the arrow's location. The system level is too low to perform the task. Unfortunately, the system couldn't help Michael. However, the system has sensed special arrays preventing normal teleportation scrolls. If she had used one despite the arrays, the space distortion would have left a mark in the wise dragon. Once the host pays 200,000 badass points and kills the dragon, the system can scan it to pinpoint Adelia's destination. From there, the host might get some answers. Surprisingly, the words followed after the system level was too low gave Michael a way to find Adelia. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. Michael immediately agreed to the system. You don't know anything more? Michael tilted his head. The wise dragon slowly nodded, wordlessly telling him no. Deal is a deal. Michael sighed. Gaia clenched her fist. She didn't want to let the backstabbing dragon live. She was about to disagree with Michael when she saw Michael place both his hands on the dragon's face. The dragon suddenly quivered. Soon, it frantically wriggled its body as its obsidian eyes turned white. Michael began to use the Soul Eater on the wise dragon. Even if the system didn't ask Michael to kill the dragon, he would have done it anyway. The moment the wise dragon decided to double-cross him, it sealed its own fate. Besides, Michael knew it was going to double-cross him. When he activated his X-ray vision, he noticed skeletons of various races trapped inside blocks of ice beneath the ice floor. The Soul Dragon froze after one gave him a piece of information. That was how the wise dragon remained the sole owner of such knowledge. But the wise dragon's karma caught up with it when it tried to do the same to Michael. Since the wise dragon was weakened by the lightning bolts and the fear toxin, it was easy for Michael to absorb the wise dragon's soul. He didn't get as much resistance as he got from the mutated dragon. A cloud of white smoke slowly rose from the wise dragon's eyes and floated into Michael's face. He opened his mouth to speed up the process. Gaia had to force the dragon with all her might to stop it from quivering. As seconds flew by, the wise dragon slowly stopped moving. But unlike before, a bright light shot out of Michael, enveloping the wise dragon. The light lasted for a few moments, radiating an otherworldly whistling sound. Afterward, the light disappeared along with the wise dragon's body. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, what the heck system? I could have sold the dragon's body for billions. Michael was stunned. He never thought the system would take the dragon's entire body and disappear. Ding. Congrats to the host for killing a fusion stage, level 10 mutated dragon. The reward is 500,000 experience points as well as 20,000 badass points. The Soul Eater has absorbed the soul of the wise dragon. The host has received 200,000 experience points. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is the fusion stage level 10. The system notification sounded in his head. After killing the wise dragon, he was just 400,000 experience points away from breaking through to the half-immortal stage. Then, you wouldn't have found where Adelia went after teleporting from here, the system rebuked. The system has located Adelia's destination using the energy mark in the wise dragon's body. Where did she go? Asked Michael. The castle of Kane family? Yet again, Michael was surprised by the system's answer. To the Kane castle? Michael asked himself. Unfortunately, the host lacks the required badass points to teleport away from the treacherous ocean. So the system recommends exploiting the place and earning more badass points to give the system. Yeah, right. Michael rolled his eyes. What did you do? Gaia panicked. I may have found where your mother teleported to. Gaia's heart skipped a beat. Her eyes went wide behind her mask. Where? To the castle of the Kane family. Just like Michael, she was shocked too. She recalled meeting Elder Kane in the castle last time. Elder Kane's full name is Ashton Kane, right? Asked Nightmare. I thought it was a coincidence, but if she teleported to the Kane family out of all the places she could have, I think it might not be a coincidence. What if Ashton Kane has some connection with Adelia? Nightmare's questions made sense, and Michael shared the same thought too. Let's get out of here, said Gaia. Not yet. We have to find the curse-breaking artifact and a way to leave the place, answered Michael. The trio left the wise dragon's dome immediately. Once again, they resumed their journey deeper into the treacherous ocean, searching for the artifact that could give Michael a legendary skill. Chapter 677. Ghost Town. Several hours had passed since Michael had absorbed the wise dragon's soul. Michael's power steadily grew toward the half-immortal stage. He was pleasantly surprised to see Gaia breaking through to the soul-refining stage level 7. Unfortunately, they didn't come across any powerful enemies. Instead, they had an eventless journey. They continued to roam around the island. Michael ordered the system to scan the island to find points of interest. But after spending 200,000 badass points to locate Adelia's teleportation destination, he only had 60,000 badass points. God-killing arrows. Sounds ominous, said Nightmare. I wish we had learned about them earlier. Whatever they are, we cannot let anyone else find them, especially the Sky Hall or the Guardians, said Gaia. Her tone was grave. Judging by the name, these arrows were something that could hurt Michael. He was the only god Gaia had met in her life. Finding her mother was the only way to know more about these arrows. Let's find the artifact first. Then, we can worry about these arrows, said Michael. Surprisingly, he was calm. Don't you feel everything is coming together? Asked Michael. What do you mean? Asked Gaia. Wulfric finding my identity, Rowena pretending to be my friend, your mother being a vampire, the god killing arrows. Michael listed out the things in his mind. I feel like I won't be able to live 2 lives for longer. Michael's words shocked Gaia and Nightmare. Don't tell me you're planning to reveal yourself as the Dark Lord. The entire Sky Hall will hunt you down. The last time I checked, we were not strong enough to take on the Sky Hall, said Gaia. We can't take on the Sky Hall, but we can hide from them. Michael started to form a plan if his identity got exposed. The war with Thusia might be a new beginning for him. Ironically, his life ended and started with Thusia. The history might repeat in a few months when he steps onto Thusia. System, are you powerful enough to hide me and my subordinates from the Sky Hall? Michael prayed deep down for the system to say yes. His wish came true when the system answered him. Yes. The system would require 5 million badass points to hide your and your subordinates' presence from any surveillance spells and arrays. Michael was glad he has a way to hide from the Sky Hall. Once we find Mother, she will know what to do next, Gaia said with absolute trust in her mother. We will. Nightmare brushed his head against Gaia's. He rested upon Gaia's shoulder, looking around the treacherous ocean. He was kinda curious to know why the Dragon Clan had disappeared from the face of the world. Moreover, what caused them to disappear? Each of them was in deep thought of their own. As they traveled in peace for almost an hour, they found themselves in a valley. For a moment, Michael thought it was an illusion. But it was not. They were actually looking at a lush green valley with several waterfalls around them. With creased brows, they entered the valley, expecting trouble any second. On the outside, the valley looked lush and beautiful. Even on a gloomy night, Michael could see the vegetation sprinkled around like dust of emerald. It was surprising to see a place like this in a treacherous ocean. The last time he visited with Layla, he didn't come across any places such as this. This chapter upload first at NovelBin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. How could a single place have so many biomes? Michael asked himself. Look, Nightmare noticed something behind a boulder. He quickly pointed at the boulder to Michael and Gaia. They slowly made their way toward the boulder. The boulder was almost 8 feet tall and 6 feet wide. The round boulder hid something behind. When they reached the boulder, Michael slowly walked around the boulder. As they got closer to the boulder, the air smelled like rotten meat. It made Gaia twitch her nose a bit. There was a partially decayed body on the ground. Flies buzzed around the body. Judging by the decomposed rate, the body was a month older. Michael and Gaia squatted beside the body to inspect it. Although the robes were decomposed, they could make out a silver sword on the chest. It's the crest of Aragoth, said Gaia. Disciple or an elder? Asked Nightmare. Nightmare stared at the body from head to toe. Suddenly, his eyes squinted. He jumped onto the body and placed his ear on the Boda's chest. I don't sense any arch energy in this body whatsoever. Nightmare looked at Michael and Gaia with a bewildered look on his face. In this world, everything had a trace of arch energy radiation except the junk metal which Michael used to build his drones and spiders. Even a dead body would radiate a sliver of arch energy. However, Nightmare didn't sense any energy radiation from the body. Michael, Gaia furrowed her brows. She poked the dead Boda's chest. Michael looked closer to see a hand imprint on the skin. It looked as though a fiery hand touched the man's chest when he was alive. She had seen the mark somewhere but simply couldn't recall where she saw it exactly. What could leave a mark like this? Blood prints? Gaia tilted her head. No, Michael shook his head. Blood prints' corrosion would have corroded the body to the core. The mark may not be the cause of death, Michael gently lifted the body to take a look at his back. As Michael expected, he saw a deep stab wound on the back. Someone had stabbed the man from behind. Nightmare flapped his wings. From above, he looked around. His eyes fell on something written on the other side of the boulder. "I may have found who killed him," said Nightmare. Both Michael and Gaia stood up before taking a few steps around the boulder. Shock and surprise emerged in their eyes. Noah. Noah's name was written on the boulder in blood. Michael shook his head. It's not Noah's style to stab someone in the back. Something else has happened here. Michael rubbed his chin. Soon after, he just shrugged. I have enough things of my own to worry about. Let's just tell the Aragoth and let them deal with this, said Michael. His words surprised Gaia. Aren't you curious about what Noah was doing in the treacherous ocean? No matter who the killer was, Noah was here. I have a bad feeling about this human. Michael halted his steps when he heard Gaia. She remembered where she had seen the mark previously. This chapter upload first at novel.bin.net. Read chapter 363 to refresh your memory. The mark, I've seen it before. Michael slowly turned around. Do you remember when I told you Noah possesses a skill to lock someone's cultivation? Michael recalled Gaia's tale of Noah taking away someone's cultivation level when she was in the fire realm. Since Michael had the system, he didn't worry about Noah's skill. Noah might be powerful and a god like him, but the system was on another level. Yes, Michael nodded. I think Noah took his cultivation, and someone else stabbed him to death. There is no use in fighting out his death, said Michael, looking at the dead body. My first priority is to find your mother. Even if Noah was here to do something important, I don't have enough time to take on a new task. What if he was here to take the curse-breaking artifact you're looking for? Asked Nightmare. Then let's hope he didn't get it, said Michael. He moved forward, leaving the body behind. Michael was in deep thought about the god-killing arrows and Gaia's mother. He neither had time nor mind to waste on a new problem. Although Gaia had a bad feeling about the man's death, she knew Michael was right as always. She just followed Michael behind. To their surprise, the valley was void of any mutated beings. Hence, they had a peaceful and uneventful journey. Luckily for Michael, he found several rare herbs on the way. He took his time, harvesting everything. When he exited the valley, he collected more than 50 rare herbs. Each one could be sold for at least 1,000,000 coins in an auction. He planned to grow them in his herbal garden at the Sunrise Sect. As they exited the valley, they were welcomed by the familiar misty desolate land. Everything was shrouded in thick white mist. But in the distance, Michael vaguely saw some buildings. Michael flew toward the buildings. The closer he got to the buildings, the clearer the surroundings became. A path led toward the buildings were torn to pieces by time. Grass filled the labyrinth of cracks, and sand covered whatever was left. Gardens once looked after and trimmed to perfection were now rough and overgrown, returning back to their chaotic natural state. What is this place? Asked Gaia. Some doors were shut tightly, others were broken down. Some forcefully, and others had simply collapsed under their own weight as time continued to eat away at them. Many buildings stood precariously upright despite looking like they had no means to do so. It'd take just a slight nudge of a strong wind to tipple them all over. What looked like once a pleasant, quiet town was now completely reclaimed by nature. The creaking of wood and grinding of metal on metal was the only sounds in this town now. They were disturbing noises in a disturbing environment. The sense of fresh bread, various fruits, and all sorts of other foods might have filled the air of the place once. Right at this moment, there was only the smell of death. Although the place looked empty and desolate, Michael sensed several mutated beings around him. They had taken the damaged buildings as their home. Human, Gaia whispered. I know. Keep walking, Michael calmly said. The creaking noises sounded louder and louder. The mutated beings slowly woke up from their slumber to attack Michael. To Michael's surprise, the mutated beings didn't attack him as he expected. Instead, they watched Michael from the darkness of the broken homes. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind brushed past them. Michael sensed a powerful being for a moment. There is something here. Nightmare wrapped his tail around Gaia's neck. The The spooky surrounding and the eerie sounds made even Nightmare shudder in fear. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 678. Messenger of the Blood Prince. A strange black figure ran around like a breezing wind through the fallen buildings. Even Michael had a difficult time keeping up with the figure's speed. He stepped in front of Gaia, shielding her with his body. Standing behind Michael, Gaia felt like she could face the entire world itself. Ghost, Michael heard a hiss. The voice was eerie and spooky. Michael remained calm. You survived, the figure hissed once again. Gaia turned around, pressed her back against Michael, and watched his back. Nightmare watched Michael's left side. They prepared themselves for another battle. Only Michael knew the figure circling them was a fusion stage warrior. His senses told Michael the figure was stronger than the wise dragon itself. Ghost, I am getting annoyed, said Michael. Without even Michael himself realizing it, he was slowly stepping into his godhood. The stronger he was, the more he acted like a god instead of a mortal. Patience is a virtue, the voice whispered. The Blood Prince. The figure's words surprised Michael. Sent his regards. Suddenly, Michael noticed the figure dashing at him with the speed of lightning. Clink. Michael's instincts screamed at him as he raised his arm, retracting the black shield. The figure's steel-like claw hit the shield. Sparks flew in all directions. Michael and Gaia took a step back due to the force. Funny, said Michael, looking around the ghost town. I wanted to say the same. Once again, the figure dashed at Michael with speed beyond anyone Michael had ever faced. This time, however, Michael immediately cast the Ring of Fire. To Michael's surprise, the figure leaped over the burning fire circle and tried to attack Michael while moving upside down. Gaia was only able to see a blur. Michael blocked the figure's fist with his black shield. The sound of metal clashing resonated in the air. He should crawl back into whatever hole he came from, said Michael after the figure disappeared into the mist. I am here to send you into a hole, the figure whispered back. No, Michael snickered. You are here to make me stronger. This chapter upload first at NovelBin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit NovelNext.com to experience faster update speed. After killing the stranger, probably the Blood Prince's henchman, Michael could start the heavenly tribulation to enter the half-immortal stage. For a normal cultivator, it was simply reaching the half-immortal stage. But to Michael, it was stepping into godhood. Half-immortal stage was the first step in becoming the god of darkness. The flame around Michael burning hotter and brighter. Due to the flames, the temperature around them increased by several degrees. Michael controlled the flames to send pulses of hot waves in a circle. The houses nearby them caught fire and started to burn with infuriating rage. As a result, the dark night turned brighter. Wood crackled under the scorching hot flame. A few disturbances were enough for the already shabby homes to collapse completely. Out of the blue, a steel arrow shot through the raging flames. The arrow didn't target Michael but Nightmare, who sat atop Gaia's shoulder. Michael quickly reacted. He was fortunate to grab the arrow just an inch away from Nightmare's skull. Nightmare's eyes went wide when he saw the arrow's pointy head an inch away from his eyes. Big mistake, growled Michael. Coming here with them is, whispered the figure. Gaia quickly raised her hand, casting a defense shield around them. A misty green dome to protect them. Although the shield couldn't completely stop the spells cast by a fusion stage cultivator, the shield could absorb some force and energy to give them enough time to react. Michael's feet slowly rose from the ground. Little by little, he ascended to the sky. If the strange figure really wanted to kill him, he had to fight Michael in the air without hiding behind ruins. The figure didn't let Michael fly higher and higher. A flaming chain shot out from the ground, coiling around Michael's leg. Michael gritted his teeth. The chains burnt the skin on Michael's leg despite the ropes. Controlling the pain, Michael lifted his leg high enough to grab the chain by his hand. He quickly conjured the dark flames disguised as emerald green flames. The dark flames protected Michael's hands. When Michael grabbed the chain, it melted due to the intense heat of the dark flame. Michael wrapped the chain around his wrist before pulling it up with enough force to lift the figure into the air. As Michael planned, the figure who held onto the other end of the chain flew straight into the air. For the first time, Michael was able to take a good look at the figure. The figure was thin as a stick who dressed in a long black coat without a shirt or anything to cover his upper body. However, his leather slim-fit pants gave him the needed agility to run around. The man grinned devilishly. His black hair fluttered in the wind, just like his long black coat. In his hand, he held a pair of curved blades. The fangs were an obvious giveaway that the man was a vampire. To Michael, this vampire seemed different than the rest. Instead of asking any question, Michael raised his hand. Small golden lightning bolts danced around his wrist before shooting toward the vampire. "Don't you know my kind is immune to spells?" the vampire snickered. He didn't even bother to block the lightning bolts. Instead, he let the lightning bolts hit him. All the bolts hit the vampire right in the chest, but none could pierce his body. Gaia's eyes turned predatory. The images of the blood prince punching Michael flashed across her eyes. She wanted to rip the blood prince into pieces. Unfortunately, Gaia could sense she was not strong enough to face the vampire hovering in the air before her. This was Michael's kill. Spell or no spell. "You're going to die here," Michael said. He was nonchalant. Hearing Michael's words, the vampire grinned. To Gaia's surprise, the vampire multiplied himself. Countless copies of him materialized all around them. In a few moments, she was confused about which was the original. Each of the replicas grinned devilishly at Michael. Once again, Michael cast the ring of fire. The pulsating wave of flame shot out of Michael, burning the replicas. He used dark flames instead of normal flames. As a result, the replicas that stood within the spell's range turned into specks of light. "Primordial flame," Michael heard the figure whisper. He sensed a sliver of shock in the figure's voice. "We have lived in the shadows for too long," the figure said. "This is time to reclaim what was ours." Several arrows shot toward Michael, as he burnt every single one of them with the ring of fire. Starting with your precious river town, this chapter upload first at Novelbin. NetGaia felt rage coursing through her veins. On the other hand, Nightmare's body began to glimmer. He was just a few seconds away from breathing fire. But Michael remained calm. "You can burn it to the ground for all I care. But if you ever touch Wuxia," the vampire noticed Michael's eyes turning predatory. "I will raise your kind to the ground." Since Michael was a perfect liar, the vampire believed him. Michael's facial expression was good enough to fool the vampire. The vampire felt as though it had found a weakness of ghost. "Wuxia." Michael shot a lightning bolt toward the vampire the moment it uttered the kingdom's name. "Don't say its name," Michael growled. Michael pretended to lose his calm. The vampire's devilish laughter echoed through the treacherous ocean. The sky flickered due to Michael's lightning bolts. Whenever Michael shot a bolt of lightning, the vampire let it hit him in the chest, and it laughed, seeing the lightning bolt had caused no damage. The battle continued for a few minutes in the air until the vampire opened his mouth. "It's a good run. We will meet soon." The vampire faded into thin air, leaving them behind. Even Michael didn't expect the vampire just to disappear. He was somewhat disappointed. He could have killed the vampire to trigger the heavenly tribulation, in his case, stepping into godhood. "How are these vampires going in and out of places that even we can't?" asked Nightmare. "They must have a teleporter," answered Gaia. Michael didn't say anything but flew toward the tallest building in the ghost town. Judging by the tower and the building's architecture, it must have been a place where the people used to worship. The closeted thing Michael could compare the building was a church. The building's roof collapsed, and only one wall remained still, threatening to crumble down any second. There was only a large hole where the front door might have been. "Are we going inside?" asked Gaia. They landed before the entrance. Gaia looked inside to see nothing but ruins, wild veins, roots, and rotten logs. Michael floated a few inches above the ground to prevent their footsteps from knocking down the dominoes of a building. When he entered the building, The first thing he noticed was a 12 feet tall broken statue of a dragon. Half of the dragon's body crumbled due to the time. It sat there with its wings closed, looking at the sky. Nightmare flew toward the statue from Gaia's shoulder. He noticed several holes and hollows on the statue with crumbs of gold. Nightmare knew whoever came before they picked the statue clean of its decorations. Michael couldn't help feeling a bit down for the dragons. Once a great and powerful clan turned into nothing but a trace of history. The remaining dragons had long forgotten their legacy and lived either as familiars or wild dragons that hoard valuables, such as the wise dragon. Nightmare landed before the statue. He lowered his head, bowing. Unlike Michael and Gaia, Nightmare felt the urge to worship the statue the moment he laid his eyes on it. "Will you two give me some time alone?" asked Nightmare. They sensed a tinge of sadness in his voice. Michael nodded before turning around. Gaia, on the other hand, wanted to sit beside the little dragon to console him. But Michael grabbed her hand and dragged her with him to explore the ruins. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 679, Gift from the Dark Lord. Leaving Nightmare to stay in silence and reflect on the Dragon Clan's disappearance, Michael slowly walked around the ruin as though he was searching for something. Gaia briefly looked around the castle, but she saw nothing but ruins. Finally, Gaia couldn't hold back her tongue. "What are we doing here?" asked Gaia. "There is something under this temple," Michael calmly said. His words surprised Gaia. "So you're looking for a secret entrance?" asked Gaia. Michael nodded. "Look around. This place is in ruins. The entrance to the underground might have collapsed for all we know." Gaia was right. The lever to open up the underground chamber was long ago crumbled down. As a result, Michael had to look for an alternative way to open the entrance, which he needed to find out where. He could turn to the system, yet he chose not to until he couldn't find any other way. He was saving badass points in case he needed them when he's breaking through to the half-immortal stage. Despite her thought, Gaia still helped him by looking around, turning things, and searching for the entrance. "What about the statue? It's a classic act to hide the switch or the entrance within the statue," said Gaia. "It's pretty obvious, so the entrance won't be there," said Michael. He had already scanned the statue, finding no hidden mechanisms. They continued to roam around the temple until Gaia noticed a broken portrait hanging on the wall that stood still. She cautiously made her way to the portrait. She slowly removed the portrait from the wall. Nothing had happened as she expected. She turned around the portrait. When she removed the portrait, Michael saw a gentle heat inside the portrait with his thermal vision. He floated outward the portrait. The back of the portrait was a rough surface. On the corner, Michael noticed a half-an-inch hollow, the size of a thumb. "Nightmare, come here, buddy," Michael called out for Nightmare. It took Nightmare a few moments to open his eyes and fly toward Michael. "Are you all right?" asked Gaia. "Just felt bad for everything." Nightmare looked around. Michael grabbed Nightmare's arm and placed it on the hollow. Michael knew a fingerprint reader when he saw one. As Michael expected, when Nightmare's skin touched the portrait trembled. Gaia felt the portrait getting hotter and hotter to the point she had to take her hand off of it. Suddenly, a light shot out from the portrait toward the dragon statue. Then the light reflected on the statue to take a 60-degree turn. Michael moved the portrait a bit, but no matter where he moved the portrait, the light spotted the exact same location. "Nightmare, hold on to it," said Michael. He quickly flew toward the spotlight to investigate. Michael raised his palm toward the spotlight on the ground, sending a gust of wind to clean the dust and pebbles. After cleaning up, he noticed a tiny keyhole. Michael looked around the ruin once again. It would take ages to find the key if it was here. Finally, Michael willed the system to open this door. Since Michael had found the door and only needed a key, the system was only able to charge him 10,000 badass points. This chapter upload first at NovelBin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit novelnext.com to experience faster update speed. NovelBin. A couple of minutes later, a bright laser shot out from Michael's finger into the keyhole. The floor cracked as Michael heard something moving beneath him. Slowly, a handle emerged from the ground. Michael pulled it up to open the entrance to the underground. "Let's go," Gaia said. Nightmare followed Gaia behind. They saw Michael jump down into the hole first. Gaia followed him first, and Nightmare entered the hole last. At that moment, Michael fell down a dark hole with no light. Gaia increased her speed to reach Michael. She quickly conjured a ball of light to illuminate the place. The hole was deep enough for them to continuously freefall for almost a minute. Finally, thanks to the light, they were able to see the bottom. They landed on the ground with a small thud. The tunnel before them was the only way to move forward. Michael led Gaia and Nightmare into the tunnel. In addition to Gaia's light, there was another light source at the end of the tunnel. Moreover, Michael heard the rustling sound of a waterfall. They walked in silence. Unlike outside, Michael sensed no mutated beings around him. While following Michael, Gaia looked around at the drawings on the tunnel walls. Most of them depicted the war between the Dragon Clan and the Beast Men. "This place must be ancient," said Gaia. And untouched, Nightmare pointed at a mud pot filled with gold chains, artifacts, and chalices. "Leave them alone for now. We'll loot this place on our way out," said Michael. He had noticed the mud pots filled with valuables. If his guess was right, these were the offerings to the dragon in that statue. There was at least 10 million worth of loot in the tunnel. He could sell them for more since they were ancient, and collectors in this world would pay any price for something found in the treacherous ocean. But Michael couldn't feel happier because all of his focus was on the energy source he's been sensing ever since he entered this ghost town. The source was getting closer. He could feel its pulsating energy. Is it first energy? Michael questioned himself. The last time he saw the first energy, he ended up soul-walking Layla and created a spirit child. Michael's train of thought was abruptly cut short by Gaia. "Human look." Michael turned around to see Gaia staring at something on the wall. Her eyes went wide, and Nightmare shared the same bewildered look. Because Michael was focused on the energy source, he failed to notice the drawings that drew Gaia's attention. Once Michael reached Gaia's side, he noticed a part of the wall painted in black paint in stark contrast to the rest of the brownish tunnel wall. The engravings on the wall reminded him of the engravings in the Shadow Realm. He creased his brows as he saw a cobra, a dragon atop the cobra's head, and a human walking engraved on the wall. The cobra definitely symbolized Gaia as she was a naga. In her true form, she would look like a terrifying giant cobra. The dragon atop the cobra was Nightmare because he was sitting on Gaia's shoulder as they walked. Which meant the human was Michael. But these weren't the things that surprised Michael or shocked Gaia and Nightmare. Instead, it was what was written down beneath the engravings. "A gift for my dark queen." Michael read the words. He touched the engraving. The moment his hand touched the wall, he felt a bolt of electricity running down his spine. Immediately his vision became dark. "I have guided you as far as I could," Michael heard his own voice in his head. "The path before you is rough. Take what I left for you and let Gaia use it. Do not forget to strengthen your allies. War is won by an army, not by a single person. And yes, I am you." Michael realized the message was left by the future Dark Lord who had become the past. "Find my armor with the system's help. It will help you greatly in the path forward. Good luck, Michael." Michael's vision slowly returned to normal. Gaia stood beside him with her hand on his shoulder. "You dazed out. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net visit Novelbin.com for the best no understanding experience. I left something for you," said Michael. "Huh." Gaia tilted her head with a bewildered look. "My past self. When I touched this, I heard him. He said he has left something for you." Michael took a deep breath. He moved further into the tunnel without uttering a word. Nightmare and Gaia followed him behind. After walking for a minute, they finally saw the tunnel opening into a spacious area. Surprisingly, they could see the dark sky above them. One could see a lush green grass field with a couple of trees scattered across. A frothy cascade of water fell into a plunge pool, forming a violent waterfall. Under the sky was yet another dragon statue covered in moths. In their mouth, they saw a bright ball of energy. The light from the ball of energy lit the area bright. Additionally, it created an otherworldly whistling noise. The pulsating energy could be felt from afar. What is that? Gaia's jaw dropped a couple of inches. She felt like the energy is calling her. Without her control, she started to walk toward the statue. Pure first energy. Michael recognized this energy. However, it differed from the first energy he came across with Layla. System, is this thing going to trigger something? Asked Michael. The energy has been purified and specifically modified to be absorbed by subordinate Gaia, said the system. Michael heard a tinge of surprise in the system's voice. But the system can sense a sliver of instability in the energy due to staying dormant for many years. What does that mean? That means once the subordinate Gaia has started to absorb the energy, it would create a shock wave that attracts the mutated beings in a mile radius toward you, said the system. Let them come. Gaia was just a couple of meters away from the statue when she turned around. Michael, what should I do? I feel like it's calling to me, said Gaia. Michael made his way toward her. He gently placed his hand on her shoulder. Cultivate that energy and do not stop under any circumstances until you've done, said Michael. With a nod, Gaia sat in a meditating position to start cultivating. Nightmare, get ready. This is going to get ugly. Michael unsheathed his swords. They were no special by any means. He got them from the Voldegard mansion. Meanwhile, Nightmare returned to his original size. The ground beneath them trembled as soon as Gaia began to absorb the energy. Michael immediately took out a fuel can from the system storage. He cast the lightning dash before pouring the fuel around them. Sparks flew out of Michael's fingers. He ignited the fuel with his dark flames. At that moment, countless thundering roars resonated throughout the area. Michael and Nightmare were poised to attack whatever comes toward them. Come on, come on, come on, Michael repeated the words, preparing himself for a bloody battle. Chapter 680. Fighting an army of mutated beings. Michael felt the energy getting denser in the atmosphere. When Michael looked over his shoulder, he noticed a sliver of pure white energy enveloping her body. Gaia's power shot through the roof. Meanwhile, countless mutated beings of all shapes leaped to the ground from higher ground. They were surrounded. The only silver lining was this first wave only contained mutated beings at the core formation stage. But Michael sensed more powerful mutated beings approaching them. Nightmare flapped his wings, reaching the sky. He opened his mouth, breathing a crimson-red stream of fire onto the mutated beings. His dragon breath turned everything into ash. In a few seconds, Nightmare killed almost half of the mutated beings. After burning them to ashes, Nightmare landed near Gaia to protect her in case a mutated being sneaked past Michael and him. On the other hand, Michael did not move. Golden bolts of lightning crackled around his wrist. The buzzing sound from the bolts sounded louder and louder. Without moving an inch, Michael raised his sword as the bolts of lightning shot out from his words. The thick golden lightning bolt penetrated a couple of mutated beings at once. Their heads exploded as they hit the ground with a sickening thud. The light on Gaia's body glowed brighter, fighting the death range cast by Michael. The place almost looked black and fought due to the light conflict. At the same time, he cast the ring of fire. The pulsating fire was dark instead of crimson red. Michael did not hold back from using the dark flames. Even Nightmare's dragon breath took a couple of seconds to turn the mutated beings to ash, but the dark flames did the same in an instant. Michael's experience points rapidly climbed up. Finally, the first wave of mutated beings were all killed by Nightmare and Michael. Silence fell over them. Except for a howling wind and the shuddering sound of the waterfall, they heard nothing. For a few minutes, everything seemed calm. But Michael knew it was just the calm before the storm. Be ready, Michael looked at Nightmare. They are coming, said Michael. Nightmare nodded. He slowly ascended to the sky to get a good look at the mutated beings. When he reached the sky, he furrowed. There were at least 100 mutated beings swarming from every direction. Nightmare didn't fly toward them. Instead, Nightmare hovered over Gaia, waiting for the mutated beings to get closer. This time, Michael started the battle with the wind blast. He saw mutated humanoid beings running and some crawling toward him. They reached their hands out as though they wanted to rip out Michael's head. Most of the mutated beings were at the core strengthening stage, and some were at the soul refining stage. Michael immediately targeted the soul refining stage mutated beings. They weren't humanoid beasts. All the soul refining stage beings were some kind of four-legged beasts. They resembled rhinoceros on Earth, except these were taller than a typical man. The ground trembled as the army of mutated beings moved forward. Lightning dash. Michael disappeared from the place. He dashed at them, leaving streaks of golden lightning on his trail. Michael leaped into the air and brought down his fists. Michael used all his strength to punch the ground. The ground split open as his punch created a crater. The shock wave sent several mutated beings flying back. The soul refining stage beasts collapsed onto the crater formed by Michael's punch. He immediately followed up his attack with the ring of fire. Wave after wave, the dark flames shot out of Michael. The mutated beings stood no chance against the most powerful primordial flame. They all turned to ashes, including the soul refining stage beasts. Ding! Congrats to the host for killing a soul refining stage, level 6 mutated beast. The reward is 300,000 experience points as well as 20,000 badass points. Ding! Congrats to the host for killing a soul refining stage, level 7 mutated beast. The reward is 300,000 experience points as well as 20,000 badass points. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novelnext.com to experience faster update speed. The source of this content is Novelbin. Ding! Congrats to the host for killing a soul refining stage, level 3 mutated beast. The reward is 300,000 experience points as well as 20,000 badass points. Maximum experience points reached. The host has enough experience points to start the heavenly tribulation. Additional points will be stored in the system temporarily to be consumed after reeking through to the half-immortal stage. The system recommends the host find a safe place to start the tribulation. The tribulation must not be stopped for any reason. The system sounded in his head. But he ignored it because he was in the middle of a battle. Whether the battle was small or big, he always gave his full focus. Otherwise, a simple mistake could result in a catastrophe. On the side, Nightmare breathed fire in a circle. He kept the mutated beings at bay. Michael fully immersed himself in the battle. The more he fought, the darker the area became. Michael let his suppressed powers out, reaching his full potential. Thunder rumbled in the distance as the golden bolts of lightning gradually turned black. His speed increased to the point even Nightmare could only see the afterimages left behind by Michael. Dark ooze like blood spurted out as limbs and heads flew on the battlefield. Powerful crescent-shaped fire blades cut through the mutated beings like a hot knife through butter. Michael combined his spells to form new powerful spells. For instance, the fire blades were created by combining the ring of fire and wind blast. Michael killed all the soul refining stage rhinos except one. When Michael burnt the rest, it was far away from the reach of the ring of fire. Hence, it escaped the wrath of dark flames. The rhino's roar echoed through the battlefield. Michael and the beast made eye contact. Without wasting a moment, the rhino kicked the floor and jogged toward Michael. Everything that stood in its way got either crushed or thrown away. Tiny bolts of lightning began to crackle around Michael's feet. When Michael dashed forward, his speed created a sonic wave that blasted off everything around him. Nightmare could only see a streak of black lightning. Under Nightmare's gaze, the rhino and Michael clashed. Their collision created another shock wave. The ground around them formed several cracks. No one had seen Michael's fist meeting the rhino's face. Michael didn't hold back. His punch knocked down the mammoth of a rhino. Silenes. Michael cast the time-slowing spell for the first time. As soon as he cast the spell, everything in a 0.5-meter radius seemed to have been halted. The mutated beings, including the rhino, moved in slow motion. Michael used this momentary slowness to plunge his sword into the rhino's belly. His sword didn't go through easily, but Michael quickly covered his left fist with the dark flame and punched the rhino. The rhino's hide was strong but not strong enough to withstand the dark flames. His fist created a hole in the rhino's belly. Quickly, Michael plunged his sword, cutting its innards. Moreover, Michael sent a thick bolt of lightning through the hall. Suddenly, the surroundings became normal. The rhino roared. It wasn't a roar of agony or pain, as the mutated beings felt neither. The roar contained pure hatred toward anything other than a mutated being. Michael cast the ring of fire without giving the rhino a chance to retaliate. Since Michael was standing close to the rhino, the dark flames didn't take much time, turning the rhino into a pile of hot ash. The dark flames swallowed the rhino and spat out nothing. Even the rhino's bones were turned to ashes. Any creature with a brain would have been terrified by Michael's kill. Unfortunately, the mutated beings lacked brain functionality. They kept coming at Michael as if nothing had happened. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net follow current novels on N0velbin.com. The dark flames pulsed out from Michael. Every time it pulsated, a wave of dark flames shot out, turning everything around him to ashes. Considering Michael had used the death range, he stepped onto the half-immortal stage. To a half-immortal, the core strengthening or soul refining stage mutated beings were as weak as ants. Michael killed them all without breaking a sweat. The battle only lasted for another minute or two. In the second wave, Michael killed more mutated beings than Nightmare. Michael breathed heavily. He was covered entirely in dark ooze spurted out from the mutated beings. He slowly cleaned the sword blades on his elbow. Once the eerie silence had returned to the field, Michael landed just beside Gaia with a single leap. "How long will it take?" asked Nightmare. "But you have somewhere to be?" Michael raised his brow. He was in a good mood after accumulating enough points to reach the half-immortal stage. Moreover, the battle was far from over. So right out of the bat, he could reach level 2 or 3 of the half-immortal stage, depending on the experience points cap. Michael noticed Gaia reaching soul refining stage 8, and her power kept increasing. He wondered how the past Dark Lord, who was himself, managed to refine the first energy. The only guess Michael had was the system. The duo patiently waited beside Gaia, regaining their strength. Michael emptied several revitalizing potions down his throat and tossed some into Nightmare's mouth. Feeling the powerful energy radiation, Michael was tempted to use the energy devourer. However, he himself said he left this to Gaia. Hence, Michael withheld himself. Gaia must be as strong as him to face the foes ahead of them. Out of the blue, Nightmare and Michael heard a thunderous roar. Michael closed his eyes to sense how many mutated beings were on their way. To Michael's surprise, he sensed only one. Judging by the mutated being's speed, it was walking at the speed of a typical human. Michael slowly turned around. He was surprised by the mutated being. It was neither a beast nor any normal humanoid mutated being. Instead, what stood several meters ahead of Michael was an 8 feet tall orc with a 6 feet tall club. His skin was gentle green, with hollow eyes. The orc was muscular. He looked like he could break a tree in half just with his brute strength. Various armaments, such as a chain of fingers around his neck, decorated his body. "Stay back," said Michael. The orc was at the fusion stage level 7. Nightmare was no match for him. Sensing the power radiation from the orc, Nightmare didn't argue. Instead, he stepped back, opening his wings to shield Gaia. Instead of mindlessly dashing at Michael like the others, the orc stood on higher ground, staring at Michael. Michael felt as though the orc was studying him. "What's he doing?" Nightmare mumbled. Michael remained calm. He cracked his neck before taunting the orc to make his move. "Come on, the novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone." Chapter 681, Gaia's Transformation. The orc and Michael looked at each other. They were in a staring contest. After a while, the orc finally took a step forward. A green mist enveloped the club in the orc's hand. Every other mutated being Michael had met was dumb, stupid, and brainless. However, the orc seemed different. Michael didn't know the orc was ancient, several thousand years older than the mutated being Michael had faced. The treacherous ocean twisted the orc's soul and mind to the point the orc developed a sense of intelligence. The orc was once a mindless mutated beast, but not anymore. It had evolved. Soon, the slow steps turned into running. Michael stood there without moving. Lightning bolts crackled around Michael's fist and feet. He waited for the orc to get closer. The distance between Michael and the orc rapidly closed to the point there was only 10 meters distance between them. At that moment, Michael dashed toward the orc. In a blink of an eye, the orc's club and Michael's swords clashed. Sparks flew, creating clashing metal sounds. The orc roared. Despite the orc's size, it moved with speed beyond mortal limits. The orc swung his club left and right with no technique but with brute force. A single blow could force a man's head to his chest cavity. Michael swayed his body to avoid the club. With lightning speed, Michael swung his swords. As Michael expected, the sword couldn't even scrap the orc's thick skin. He felt like he was trying to cut a concrete block. The orc quickly retaliated by throwing his fist at Michael. The latter barely evaded the punch. Suddenly, the orc roared. A powerful sonic wave shot out of its mouth and sent Michael flying for a couple of meters. "That's unexpected," said Michael when he landed on the ground. Michael was lucky to have the responsive shield in his arsenal. Otherwise, the sound wave shot out of the orc's mouth would have torn his eardrums and crushed a few bones. Still, the roar damaged Michael's organs a bit. The APD quickly pumped a healing potion into his bloodstream, keeping Michael in perfect shape. Michael took a deep breath. He threw away the two swords because they were useless in this fight. Instead of using swords, Michael conjured the dark flames. He covered his fist with the dark flames. The flame burnt off his sleeves. Michael felt powerful and badass with the flaming fists. "Let's see how thick your skin is," Michael snickered. Yet again, Michael dashed at the orc. If there was no light coming from the energy behind Michael, he would have been stronger. Complete darkness with no light would boost Michael's strength several times. Nonetheless, Michael was more than strong enough to fight the orc. After all, the orc was at the fusion stage, but Michael was at the half-immortal stage. Michael delayed the battle intentionally to give Gaia enough time. If Michael had killed the orc sooner, stronger mutated beings could appear next. But, for some strange reason, no mutated beings appeared in the area. It worked in Michael's favor. He took his sweet time with the orc. But that wasn't to say the orc was an easy opponent. On the contrary, the orc was stronger than any fusion stage cultivator Michael had faced. The orc threw his fist and, at the same time, swung its club. This time, Michael didn't evade. Instead, he just grabbed the club. A powerful shock wave appeared when Michael stopped the club with his hand. On the other hand, he grabbed the orc's fist. Michael looked up at the orc with a snicker. The very next moment, Michael pulled the club and fist toward him and kicked the orc in the gut with his knee. The orc spurted out dark blood. Michael quickly turned around before throwing the orc over his head. The orc hit the ground with a loud thud. The ground formed several cracks beneath the orc when Michael smashed him on the ground. Michael did not stop. He stomped the orc in the chest with enough force to break several ribs inside the orc. This chapter upload first at novel.bin.net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed, the latest __sodies are on _VLBIN website. The orc opened his mouth to roar, but Michael quickly raised his arms, casting the wind blast spell. The sonic wave from the orc's mouth and the wind blast from Michael collided in the middle. The collision created a shock wave that sent both of them flying in opposite directions. Michael landed on his feet comfortably, unlike the orc. The flames burned darker and hotter around Michael's fist. He cracked his neck. Nightmare turned his gaze away from the battle to Gaia. She was still cultivating the energy. Her power had grown from soul refining stage level 8 to level 9. Gaia's black hair fluttered in the wind as her entire body glowed. He noticed golden snake scales appearing on her skin. On the other hand, Michael did not notice the changes on Gaia's skin. He focused on battling the orc. While the orc was getting back to his feet, Michael made his way to the boulder nearby. Michael punched the boulder, cracking it open like an egg. He grabbed the two large pieces of the boulder, lifted them up, and threw them toward the orc. Seeing the two large stones flying toward him, the orc quickly raised his hands in front of his face. The two boulders hit the orc before scattering into pieces. The orc was thrown backward by force. When he lowered his arms, Michael was in the air. He fired lightning bolts one after another. Michael flew around in the air, bombarding the orc with lightning bolts. In Nightmare's eyes, Michael looked more like a god of lightning than the god of darkness. The orc couldn't keep up with Michael's offense. After a while, the orc surprised Nightmare by leaping into the air. The orc tried to battle Michael in the air. Nightmare saw the orc and Michael fly across the sky, fighting each other. They moved too fast to the point Nightmare could only see blurry images in the sky. The battle between the orc and Michael continued for nearly 15 minutes. Michael dragged the fight as long as he could. Although the orc began to fight aggressively like a wounded animal, Michael remained unscathed. To Michael's surprise, Gaia rapidly reached higher and higher in cultivation power. He thought she would stop breaking through once she had reached the fusion stage level 3 or 4. On the contrary, her absorption of the energy increased by several folds. She climbed up the cultivation without slowing down. Fusion stage level 3, fusion stage level 4, fusion stage level 5, fusion stage level 6. Her power soared through the roof. Nightmare had a difficult time breathing standing beside Gaia. In the air, the battle continued. The orc was in much more rough shape than before. His entire body was riddled with burning wounds caused by Michael's flaming fists. Yet, despite all the wounds and broken bones, the orc continued to fight with new vigor. His wounds even slowly healed. Michael had enough of the orc. He wanted to finish the battle. The quickest way to finish the fight was to grab the orc's head and twist it around. Michael was about to evade the orc's punch and flew behind him when a bright beam of light shot out from Gaia toward the sky. The sound of rumbling thunder echoed through the treacherous ocean. Nightmare saw Gaia slowly starting to float in the air. Finally, her power stopped rising. Gradually, the bright ball of energy in the dragon's mouth lost its glow. In a few moments, the light faded away from the energy ball and around Gaia. She floated in the midair with her hair fluttering. Just like lightning bolts danced around Michael's body, slithering snakes made of emerald green energy coiled around Gaia. They were in the hundreds. Tiny ethereal snakes coiled around her. Michael stopped fighting as he felt a strange force enveloping the orc. Gaia slowly opened her eyes. They were green with slit pupils. Suddenly, Michael's neck hair stood up. She looked over his shoulder to see a giant cobra materialize in the air. It glimmered like it was made of pure gold. The snake hissed at the orc, slowly wrapping its tail around the orc. The orc frantically wriggled his body to escape the snake's clutches. But the ethereal snake was too strong. It slowly crushed his body. Michael heard sickening bone-crushing sounds. Slowly, the hissing snake opened its mouth, devouring the orc. This chapter upload first at NovelBin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit NovelBin.com to experience faster update speed. Michael saw the orc's skin melting inside the snake's mouth. Since the snake was translucent, he could see the orc gradually turning into a skeleton. Ding! Subordinate Gaia killed a fusion stage level 10 mutated orc. The reward is 300,000 experience points. Michael heard the system sounding in his head. The Gaia before him was just as strong as him, a level 10 fusion stage cultivator. By absorbing the purified first energy left behind by the Dark Lord, Gaia jumped from the soul refining stage cultivator to a fusion stage cultivator. "I feel strong," said Gaia. She clenched her fist and looked at her arms. "Yes, you are." Michael wrapped his arm around Gaia. He gave a gentle headbutt before a warm kiss on the cheek. "System, pinpoint the curse-breaking artifact's location," Michael ordered the system. He accumulated enough badass points to locate the artifact instead of aimlessly roaming around the treacherous ocean. He didn't have any need to wander around. He got enough experience points to break through to the half-immortal stage. According to the system, he had to be in a safe environment to start the tribulation. The treacherous ocean was anything but safe. Finding a safe environment was Michael's next goal. But first, he needed to get the artifact for Eve's sake. The system asked for 100,000 badass points to pinpoint the location. It was worth the price. After a while, Michael sensed a strange energy. That was the curse-breaking artifact. Without lingering around, Michael flew in the artifact's direction. "Where are we going?" asked Nightmare. He had so many questions to ask Gaia, but for now, he chose not to. To take the artifact that would break Eve's curse once and for all. Chapter 682, Villainous Michael. Michael flew slower than before. Instead, he took his sweet time. With Gaia beside him, even the treacherous ocean looked pretty and soothing to him. After flying for almost 6 hours non-stop, Michael found a hill. He made his way to the hill and sat on the edge with Gaia. Nightmare sat between them after shrinking his size to the size of a puppy. The white mist blanketed the island before them. Occasionally, several hills and towers peeked through the fog. Everything was dead silent. The night sky slowly turned gray, signifying the sunrise. Looking at the gloomy, treacherous ocean, Gaia rested her head on Michael's shoulder. He wrapped his hand around her, pulling her closer to him. "I wish the rest of our lives would be like this." "Peaceful," Gaia sighed. "It will be. I promise. When I am done, there will be nothing but peace in this world," said Michael. "I wish Vidora were here," said Nightmare. "Me too," Gaia nodded. "What are we gonna do after all this?" asked Gaia. "Decimating Thusia and finding your mother," Michael said. He was nonchalant. "You still haven't answered my question? Are you going to join the Council of Immortals?" Michael looked at the distant horizon. His eyes glimmered with deep thought. Finally, Michael deeply exhaled. "No," Michael slowly shook his head. "One, I don't need their resources to break through to the next level. Second, they have too many rules. I don't follow the rules. I set them," said Michael. As Michael explained, the Council of Immortals had several strict rules. Each of the members must obey the rules once they have agreed to join the council. When a cultivator reaches the half-immortal stage, the council would formally invite them through a representative of the council. 9 out of 10 cultivators would immediately join them because after reaching the half-immortal stage, typical cultivation resources wouldn't be much of a use. Without the council's resources, they wouldn't be able to achieve a breakthrough to the next level. However, once they had agreed to join the council, they would be forbidden to meddle with mortal affairs. In other words, even if their family gets destroyed by a rival family, they have no right to seek revenge. Many immortals and half-immortals spent their time in seclusion as they would lose track of time. As a result, many would lose their connection with their descendants and familial bonds. Michael didn't have any plans to join the council, even if they had no strict rules. But the Council of Immortals worked in Michael's favor. While Michael was destroying his foes, they would fight among themselves about whether they should take action against him or not. They were basically politicians with their own needs. Michael knew he could sway some immortals to his side with bribes bought from the system. His next goal was to become powerful enough to destroy the Council of Immortals if he needed to. "Just find me energy sources like this," said Gaia. Michael almost coughed up blood, hearing her. Even Gaia began to laugh. She was fortunate to find such a miraculous energy source. Suppose they auctioned the energy source. It would have easily made them billions. This chapter upload first at Novel.bin.net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel.next.com to experience faster update speed. The source of this content is Novel.bin. "I've already found one," said Michael. "The cosmic stream?" Michael nodded. "I'll take back what's mine. If I can't, I will destroy it." His voice became cold. "Now that you've warned them you're coming for them, they will try to strike you down when you start your heavenly tribulation. "We need a safe place," said Gaia. According to the system, he would be most vulnerable during the tribulation. Obviously, the system would go offline. Furthermore, Michael himself would enter into a kind of trance state. His mind, body, and soul had to be changed from the molecular level. Only then could he step onto godhood. The system calculated it would take 5 days for Michael to complete. During the 5 days, his safety depended on his subordinates. Initially, Michael planned to start the tribulation in a secluded place without telling anyone. However, Gaia said that the heavenly tribulation would create enough commotion and disturb nature itself to attract every single organization in the world to reach him. Most of them would be curious to see who was entering the half-immortal stage, while some might use that as a perfect opportunity to strike him down. Fortunately, Michael had several allies to protect him. The Kane family, Aragoth, Kingdom of Royal Land, Malin family, and Silvermoon sect. He would call upon them all to protect him during the heavenly tribulation. In exchange for their protection, Michael would destroy their enemies once and for all. There was only one problem with calling out his allies. If by some means his identity got exposed, his allies would pay a hefty price for supporting the Dark Lord. "We still have no idea how many rogue half-immortals the Guardian Guild has?" asked Michael. Rogue ones were cultivators who chose not to join the council. Just like Michael, they had their own plans. Especially, a powerful organization such as the Guardians had rogue ones to protect themselves in case someone like Michael chose to attack them. Usually, these rogues would cultivate in the cold mountains. Their organization would provide them with the resources instead of the council. Every organization had these rogues but kept the information sealed. These rogues were usually several hundred years old or more. They keep that as a secret. "But we might be able to get something from the elf," said Gaia. By elf, she meant Lord Information. Michael doubted Lord Information could have that information, but it wouldn't hurt to try. After spending some time in peace, Michael stood up. Once again, they resumed the journey toward the artifact. On their way, they met several mutated beings in the sky. Gaia took care of them in a few seconds with new vigor. Even the fusion stage beasts didn't stand a chance against Gaia. Eventually, the trio reached a forest. The forest was far-reaching, impenetrable, and ancient. Its canopy was contested by larch, spruce, and elm, which gave just enough light a chance to descend for a collection of herbs to use the moist and fertile bottom layer below. Thin branches embraced many trees, and various flowers, which desperately tried to claim the last remnants of light, caught attention in the otherwise unvarying scenery. A mishmash of noises, predominantly those of critters, reverberated through the air and added to the sounds of occasional sounds of breaking twigs beneath the feet of Michael, Gaia, and Nightmare. Fearing they might miss the artifact if they flew above the forest, they chose to walk through the thicket. Michael sensed the artifact getting closer and closer to him. He wondered what this artifact that would make him break any curses was. Once he gets this artifact, he could break not only Eve's curse but also Claire's grandfather's too. Additionally, Michael planned to find more information about Claire's mother. Michael walked through the thicket until he saw an abandoned cabin. Nature had long claimed the cabin to itself. The small cabin was completely riddled with veins, roots, and a thick green blanket. To an oblivious man, it was just a cabin. Gaia couldn't sense any energy radiation from the cabin at all. Even Nightmare, who perceived the world with a different view, couldn't tell there was a powerful magical artifact inside. To Michael's surprise, there were no traps or arrays around the cabin. "There it is," said Michael. The trio slowly headed toward the cabin. The cabin door slowly creaked open. Gaia conjured a ball of fire to light the cabin. The cabin was just as gloomy and abandoned inside as it was on the outside. It was empty with no furniture. The wooden cabin creaked with every step Michael took forward. Michael looked around. He sensed the artifact in the cabin, but he couldn't see it with his eyes. This chapter upload first at NovelBin. Net new novel chapters are published on NovelBin. Michael, Gaia called out for Michael. As far as she could tell, there was nothing in the cabin. Before uttering a word, Michael activated his X-ray eyes. He searched for a heat signature in the room. As Michael expected, something glowed on one of the walls. It took Michael a couple of steps to reach the wall. Michael saw a rune glowing with his X-ray eyes. He wasn't an expert in runes. So Michael decided to order the system to break the rune. "System, break this," ordered Michael. Surprisingly, the system only asked for 10,000 badass points. It already took enough to locate the artifact. The moment he willed the system, Michael sensed another being appearing in the cabin. "Look out!" Gaia quickly warned Nightmare. The bow and arrow materialized in her hand in a blink of an eye. When Michael slowly turned around, he saw a ghostly figure of an elf floating in the middle of a room. Just like any other elf, the man had pointy ears and golden hair and wore azure robes. He looked at Michael with a strange look in his eyes. "You're not the chosen one," said the elf. Michael remained calm. After a while, a grin emerged on his face. "Well, I am the one who's here," said Michael. "Who are you?" asked Gaia. "Leave." Instead of answering Gaia, the elf answered with killing intent. His voice sounded loud and threatening. "Funny, I was about to say that," Michael calmly said. He started to walk around the elf with his hands behind his back. "I don't give a damn about the chosen one. I am here to take what's mine. Yours?" The elf's ghostly face twitched. His eyes glimmered with fury. "I created the staff. You have no right to it," the elf snarled. "Oh, I am scared," Michael ridiculed the elf. "You're just a soul piece. In a few minutes, your protective runes will be destroyed, and I will get your staff," said Michael. For a moment, the elf didn't respond to his words as he was too furious. "Don't worry. I'm going to do you a favor. It's going to sound villainous, but I will absorb you. So you and your staff kinda belong to me now. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone." Chapter 683, War with One Man in the capital of New Thusia. A castle with 7 massive, round towers had been built on various tactical spots for an ideal defense that stood majestically. Each tower was tall enough to touch the clouds. They were connected by high, wide walls made of white stone. Stylish windows scattered thinly around the walls in seemingly perfect symmetry, along with same-sized holes for archers and artillery. A great gate with giant metal doors and archer holes guarded the castle. Several groups of heavily armored soldiers guarded the bridge across the moat. The bridge was the only way to get inside the castle by the ground. Every inch of the castle was protected by powerful arrays and runes. Various large houses were scattered outside the castle gates. Surprisingly, the rich were comfortable with living outside the gates as well. This castle was relatively new, but so far, it stood its ground with ease, and it'd likely do so for ages to come. Nonetheless, the castle was still in the early stages of construction. There were still many things left to build. The royal family of Thusia aimed to make the castle the biggest and the grandest castle in the entire world. They wanted to rival the castle of our empress herself. Even in the early stages, the castle made many castles in the world look pale in comparison. The sheer size of the castle would terrify anyone. The castle was at least 10 times bigger than a typical castle in the world. The falling snow added an extra layer of charm to the already imposing castle. King Maxim was generous with the soldiers guarding the castle. On top of soldiers patrolling the castle grounds, soldiers were flying above the castle with a chute to kill anyone who entered the airspace of the castle order. The castle was just as grand inside as it was on the outside. Huge braziers hanging from each of the 12 ivory columns lit up the lower levels of the throne hall. They engulfed everything in a flickering radiance. The gemmed runes on the layered ceiling danced in the flickering light while sculptures and marble icons looked down upon the mosaic floor of this imposing hall. A turquoise rug ran down from the throne and marked the closest spot people could stand when they addressed the Royal Highness. Forked banners with emblazoned sides drooped from the walls. Between each banner sat a small altar full of candles. A few of them had been lit and, in turn, illuminated the paintings of previous kings and queens of Thusia below them. Hefty, Stained glass windows of mesmerizing mosaics were concealed by draperies colored the same turquoise as the crimson-red banners. The curtains had been adorned with fancy tassels and impressive needlework. At the end of the hall was a towering throne made of various rare and expensive metals on a higher platform. There were at least 20 to 30 steps between the throne hall and the throne. The throne was built to resemble a crown. It was adjoined by two equally impressive thrones for the queen and the princess. Every inch of the throne was covered in intricate marks, and a sapphire lantern was fixed on each of the elegant armrests. The fluffy pillows were a dark lavender adorned with gilded tracery. Those seeking the wisdom of their royal highness could do so on the several long and rather bulky granite benches, all facing the throne in a half-circle. Those of higher standing could instead take seats in the specially decorated mezzanines facing the throne. At the moment, several people occupied the throne hall. They all had dark lines on their forehead. One of them was a tall knight armed to the teeth. He was facing King Maxim, Queen Valeria, and Princess Victoria on one knee. The man had a scar running across his left cheek. It made him look somewhat scary and villainous. He was the general of Thusia, Booth-Felion, the man who slaughtered the sanctuary and killed Abras. In addition to General Booth, Edith sat on the decorated bench along with Layla Alden herself. "I am disappointed in you, Booth," said Maxim. The disappointment was obvious on his face. "Let's hear how he is going to fix the situation," Queen Valeria said, gently squeezing Maxim's hands. She had known Booth since she was little. He was the most loyal man in the entire Thusia. As far as she was concerned, one mistake was not enough for them to punish the man who's been risking his life every day for the betterment of Thusia. "I have sent my best men. They will finish their task," said Booth. Layla's eyes glimmered with anger. But she remained calm for the sake of her sister. Although Layla and Edith were sisters, they didn't share a strong familial bond. Only a few in this world knew that Edith was not Layla's biological sister. Layla was born to the first wife of Lord Norbert Alden, and Edith was born to his second wife. Almost after 25 years, Norbert married Edith's mother, and she was born a year later. By that time, Layla had already left her homeland and secluded herself from the outside world. Yet, despite everything, Layla did love Edith. That was the only reason she agreed to come to Thusia when Victoria called for her. On one hand, Layla had to think about Edith and save her. On the other hand, she had Ghost, the father of her spirit child, to think about. This chapter upload first at NovelBin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit NovelNext.com to experience faster update speed. This chapter is updated by NovelBin. Leave, Maxim dismissed Booth with a wave of his hand. Since Layla and some other prominent figures of Thusia were in the hall, he couldn't talk freely with Booth. Victoria waited till General Booth left the hall. Afterward, she turned her gaze toward Layla. "Thank you for coming here, Lady Alden. Your actions have put my sister in danger." "So yes, I had to come." Layla's words were cold. "Layla," Edith nervously whispered. "We understand your concern and anger, Lady Alden," said Valeria with a gentle tone. "But this is not the right time to point fingers." "Have you found a cure for Edith?" asked Valeria. Layla sighed and slowly shook her head. "There's nothing I can do for her. He has injected Edith with something new, something I have never seen in my life." Everyone was startled by Layla's words. Silence swept across the hall. Then, after long moments of silence, Victoria's words cut through the silence. "What about Mother?" asked Victoria. "She's infected too." Layla's words made Victoria's heart skip a beat. The sound of people gasping in shock resonated in the hall. King Maxim's eyes turned predatory. Dangerous killing intent radiated from his body. "You are welcome to let the healers, alchemists, and runemasters inspect their bodies. But I doubt many would even find something is wrong with them," said Layla. "How is it possible?" mumbled Victoria. Valeria was terrified. She recalled how vividly Victoria described what had happened to Edith. Her hands began to shiver. None of them had an idea how Ghost poisoned the queen herself. The answer was simple: he didn't. He just sent Arya to Thusia and let Cain guide her. Cain planned the operation just like Michael would have. Queen Valeria was protected by fusion stage cultivators. They weren't at the fusion stage or even remotely had a chance to reach it. But they were loyal to the core. Therefore, King Maxim allowed them inside the secret room where the air was filled with cosmic energy. As a result, getting near Valeria was impossible, especially for a core formation cultivator like Arya. This chapter upload first at NovelBin.net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit NovelBin.com to experience faster update speed. But fortunately, she didn't have to get close to Valeria. Instead of directly injecting the blood tonic into Valeria, she injected them into meat, vegetables, and ingredients used in the castle. It took Arya to do some research to find where and how these ingredients were getting into the castle. But with the help of spiders and drones, the task became easier than she expected. If it were the normal blood tonic, the alchemists who inspect the ingredients for poison would have detected it. It was not the normal one. Michael turned 5 million gold coins into badass points and used them to modify the blood tonic using the system. The task was not simple, but it was worth every badass point. He even risked Arya's life to poison Valeria. "That's for you to find," said Layla. "Is there no way to cure them?" asked Victoria. Her heart was clenched by fear. She was afraid for her mother's life. "There is," instead of Layla, King Maxim answered Victoria's question. "We kill him," said King Maxim. "I will personally claim his head and end this threat once and for all," said Maxim. Deep down, he would sacrifice both Edith and Valeria in a heartbeat to achieve his goal, which was to conquer the entire world. Their lives would be the price he had to pay for domination. "I don't care what you did to him. But he is coming for a payback. I don't want my sister to be here when he does." Edith stood from the bench. "Layla, I am not a child, and I won't leave Victoria's side. I know how to take care of myself," said Edith. "Do you?" asked Layla. Edith couldn't find words to respond under Layla's cold gaze. It took Edith a couple of seconds to muster her courage. "I have full faith in His Majesty and the Thusian army. He is just one man," said Edith. Layla took a deep breath. During her short time with Ghost, she had learned what he was capable of. He wasn't a man who would face the battle head-on without strategies. If he warned Victoria about his arrival, Layla knew he must have several plans in his mind. He had proved no one was out of his reach. Poisoning Valeria was a statement. "You have no idea what he's capable of, Edith," said Layla. She really wanted Edith to get as far as possible from Thusia. But judging by the look in her eyes, unless Layla dragged her by force, there was no way Edith would leave the kingdom and her best friend. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 684. The Curse Breaker. Maxim Barnes dismissed everyone in the hall except Layla and Edith. "You seem like you know more about him than any of us," said Maxim. "I know him enough to know the danger my sister is in," Layla coldly responded. After inspecting Edith's body, Layla learned that Ghost could end her sister's life any second. Even her mentor didn't have any knowledge about what he had done to Edith. "If she wants, you are welcome to take her with you," Maxim said. He was nonchalant. "I am not going anywhere," Edith shook her head. "Layla, if you know him, tell him to change his path," said Edith. Layla snickered. "No, let him come," Victoria interjected before Layla could respond to Edith. "We can finish this once and for all." "I will make an example out of him," said Victoria. Her voice was murderous. After learning he had poisoned her mother, the little bit of mercy she had for Abras completely disappeared. She wanted to take his head and put it in a pike before the castle. "Edith." Layla turned her gaze toward Edith. She gently cupped Edith's face. Her motherly instinct screamed at her to take Edith away from Thusia. Edith's eyes watered, seeing the motherly love in Layla's eyes. It was extremely rare to see Layla express her emotions like this. "Come with me to the Rainbow Island. You'd be safe here. I promise you he won't hurt you," said Layla. She knew Ghost poisoned Edith to hurt Victoria. Now that he had poisoned Valeria, he didn't have any need to hurt Edith. Furthermore, Layla could plead with him to spare her sister. But first, Edith needed to leave Thusia. Layla didn't want Edith to be in between Ghost and his revenge. No, Edith shook her head. I'm not going to run away. My place is beside Vicky, said Edith. She made her decision, Maxim snickered. Lady Alden, why don't you stay with Edith and take care of her until we deal with him? Said Valeria. Although she was afraid of dying deep down, she was the queen of Thusia. She couldn't afford to look afraid or weak. Besides, Valeria didn't think a single man could threaten the great nation of Thusia. Please, Edith pleaded with her puppy eyes. For a few minutes, Layla remained silent. After a while, she exhaled deeply. Only if you listen to me, Maxim Barnes grinned in his mind. Not because he wanted Layla's help in killing Ghost, but because Maxim Barnes had feelings for Layla. She was his first love. To be honest, Maxim only worried about Ghost exposing the existence of the cosmic stream. Once he kills Ghost, he doesn't have anything to worry about. He wondered why Layla was so afraid of one man. Granted, Ghost was a prodigy and a true freak of nature. If he weren't so powerful, Maxim wouldn't have considered marrying Victoria to him. It was really unfortunate that Ghost turned out to be a guardian of the cosmic stream. Even if Ghost hadn't threatened Victoria, Maxim wouldn't have let him live. I will. Just stay with us. Tears rolled out of Edith's eyes. Layla had two reasons to stay in Thusia. One was obviously Edith and her safety. The second reason was that if push came to shove, Layla could teleport Ghost away and save him from King Maxim's wrath. I want to know why he's seeking revenge against Thusia, asked Layla. Edith slowly turned her gaze toward the barns. Unlike her, Layla was oblivious to what they did to Ghost. Maxim Barnes prepared himself for this scenario. He fabricated a perfect story to twist the facts. After killing Ghost, whatever he says would be the truth. After all, history was written by the winners. This chapter upload first at NovelBin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit NovelNext.com to experience faster update speed. Follow current novels on NovelBin.com. **********. Meanwhile, in the treacherous ocean, Michael was facing the ghostly elf. Michael waited for the system to break the rune and give him the artifact. Until then, Michael decided to entertain himself by talking to the elf who created the artifact. Let's face it, you can't stop me. You're just a sliver of soul, exclaimed Michael. Gaia lowered her bow and started to chuckle. Look at this elf. He seems mad at us. If you wanted your chosen one to get the artifact, you should have done a better job hiding it, Nightmare commented. You can't use it, human, snickered the elf. If you seriously believe that, you're in for a shock, Michael smiled. You kind have always been the vermin of out the world. Always take things you don't deserve. The elf looked disgusted. Judging by his tone and words, it was evident the elf hated humans to the core. So the chosen one is an elf? Michael tilted his head. He's not a human. He's a god. The elf expected the human before him to be shocked and surprised. Instead, he saw him burst into laughter. Don't tell me it's for the god of light? Michael Eyre quoted the words God of Light. The elf was surprised. Michael couldn't believe he had stumbled upon something meant for the god of light. This day keeps getting better and better, Michael laughed. So now I am not only getting the artifact, but I am also taking something from him. You know the god of light? The elf asked. Although he was just a sliver of soul awakened by Michael when he touched the rune, the elf still possessed the intelligence he had when he was whole. You can say that, said Michael. Then you should know the danger our world is in right now. Do you know what would happen if this artifact falls into the wrong hands? Asked the elf. Didn't you say I can't use it? So what's there to worry about? No one can use it anyways, Michael shrugged. What's happening? The elf sensed the protective rune was getting weaker. His mind went blank as it shouldn't have been possible. When the elf noticed the grin on the human's face, he was stunned. How are you doing this? The elf asked with a baffled look. Doing what? The rune. It's getting weaker. 1 minute. Michael raised a finger. This chapter upload first at NovelBin. Nets is, by n oval by n, in 1 minute, your staff will belong to me, you. Suddenly, the elf looked like he had a realization. Everything made sense to the elf. He couldn't believe it, but there was no other explanation for what was happening. You're the Dark Lord. Michael wasn't surprised. Since the elf knew about the god of light, it was only natural for him to know about the god of darkness. Bingo! Michael clapped for the elf. The room started to tremble as the wooden panels in the center slowly slid open. A pillar emerged from the ground. Michael finally saw the artifact. It was a 5-foot golden trident. The elf panicked. No, stop! The elf shouted. However, Michael couldn't care less. He kept walking toward the trident. When he was at arm's distance from the trident, the elf closed his eyes. The cabin creaked. Nightmare and Gaia heard the wind howling outside as though a storm was approaching them. The trident trembled. It slowly rose from the pillar and was about to fly out of the cabin when Michael grabbed it tight. Where do you think you're going? Michael snickered. He felt the trident violently quivering in his hand. I won't let my creation fall into the evil's hand, the elf snarled. He seemed like he was about to cast a spell on Michael. There was a time I would have told you that darkness does not always equate to evil, just as light does not always bring good, said Michael, holding the spear. The spear tried to fly away, but Michael's grip was too strong. If taking this trident and breaking the curses put on innocent people by your kind is being evil, I don't give a damn about what you think. The veins on Michael's hands popped up. The trident trembled violently as the elf tried to make the trident fly away from Michael. Let my staff go! The elf shouted. His thundering roar obliterated the cabin walls. Nightmare and Gaia stumbled back due to the force. However, Michael remained still. The only difference was the area became darker. The elf couldn't believe his eyes. Everything around him grew darker and darker. Inch by inch, Michael pulled back the trident toward him. Under the elf's shocked gaze, a dark cloud shrouded Michael. Instead of his black robes, a creepy black armor appeared on him. Finally, the elf saw the Dark Lord's true form. He completely lost the connection with the trident. Gradually the dark shoulder moved through Michael's hand and enveloped the golden trident. No, 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 no. The elf mumbled. Panic struck his heart. He was helpless and powerless to stop the Dark Lord. A few seconds later, the trident completely disappeared from sight. What did you do? Asked the elf with a terrified face. It belongs to me now, Michael's demonic voice echoed through the forest. The elf floated backward in terror. Now, it's time to end your pathetic existence. Without giving the elf any time to react, Michael dashed toward him. He immediately cast the Soul Eater. The elf felt a strong force pulling him toward the Dark Lord. He tried to resist, but the force was too much. Standing a few meters away from Michael, Gaia and Nightmare saw the elf's ghostly figure slowly turning into a cloud of smoke. This smoke flew straight into Michael's mouth. No! The elf screamed in agony. It didn't last long as the elf completely faded away from sight. We didn't even know who he was, said Gaia. There was no need, answered Michael. A smile emerged on his face, looking at his status. The Curse Breaker, he had acquired a legendary skill. With this, he could break any curses put on people. It's time we get out of this place. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 685. Breaking Eve's curse. After taking the artifact and absorbing the elf's soul, Michael had enough badass points to buy a teleportation scroll. He used it to escape the treacherous ocean. Finally, Michael reached the outskirts of the treacherous ocean. Hovering in the air, he could see the Rainbow Islands on the horizon. He wanted to visit Layla, but he chose not to. Meeting them would endanger the whole island. His war with the Sky Hall had nothing to do with innocent people living on the island. From the outskirts, Michael just had to use the runic teleportation to reach the Voldegard castle. The people of Voldegards were busy fixing the broken walls and roofs in the castle. Heavy snowfall blanketed everything. It was knee-high as soldiers had to float above the snow to save time. Some of the servants who were sitting atop the roof, fixing them with nails and hammers, saw Michael, Gaia, and Nightmare in the air. "Master Ghost is back," the servants shouted. Everyone looked up at Michael. Without uttering a word, Michael flew straight into the castle. As he reached the hall, Michael saw the Voldegard family gathered in the hall. He saw Jennifer, Lord Julian, and Lady Astrid with several elders of the family. Lord Julian sensed Michael's presence. He quickly averted his gaze toward Michael. "Master Ghost," said Lord Julian. A strange expectation emerged within his eyes. Lady Astrid welcomed Michael with a bright smile. Jennifer, on the other hand, looked surprised. She wondered why Michael was here instead of in Amazaroth. Michael glanced at the elders, who looked somewhat bewildered. They opened and closed their mouths as though they had something in their mind to ask Michael. Miss Elia, Nightmare, Lady Astrid embraced Gaia in a gentle motherly hug. "We'll talk later." Lord Julian dismissed the elders. They all slightly bowed toward Michael before leaving the hall. "Please make yourselves at home." Lady Astrid gestured at them to sit on the sofa. "Where is Eve?" asked Michael, plunging onto the sofa beside the fireplace. "Eve," Lady Astrid called out for Eve. "Jenny, go bring your sister to us," Lord Julian asked Jennifer. She nodded and climbed upstairs to meet Eve. "Eve said you went to Mazeroth," said Julian. "I did. Apparently, there is nothing much to learn in Mazeroth. So here I am," said Michael. He was nonchalant. "So about Eve, have you dash? Why do you think I am here?" Michael cut short Julian's words. "I can lift the curse now." Michael's words brought them both shock and delight. Astrid's eyes immediately watered up. Until recently, she didn't know the elves put a curse on Eve. She believed Eve had no talent for reaching the soul-refining stage. To be honest, she couldn't believe even when she told them about the curse. But Julian and Eve believed it was the truth. Now that Lord Julian and Lady Astrid gave me the floating mountain, I can make use of it. Care to tell us where this safe place is? Asked Eve. This chapter upload first at NovelBin. Net if you want to read more chapters, please visit novelnext.com to experience faster update speed. New novel chapters are published on NovelBin.com. The Holy Church, said Michael. The last time Michael checked, he was an ally to the Holy Church. Although the Holy Church was still in a growing phase, it wasn't weak either. The Holy Church had a good relationship with the Empress and the Golden Princes. Therefore, any kingdom would think twice before acting against the Holy Church. Even the Guardian Guild didn't dare to be disrespectful toward the Holy Church. The Holy Church believed Michael was a strong believer. Michael didn't think they would say no if Michael asked for a safe haven. Michael slowly rose from his sofa. It's time for me to go meet His Holiness in the church, said Michael. Knowing the graveness of the matter, none of the Voldegards dared to stop Michael. Before that, I have one more thing to do, said Julian. Let's fly to the floating mountain. I'll accompany you too. Eve decided to join Michael and Julian. So, taking the protector of the Voldegards along with them, Michael, Gaia, Nightmare, Eve, and Julian flew to the floating mountain. It took them almost an hour to reach the mountain. The lonely mountain hovered in the air. Snow blanketed everything. Even the waterfall was frozen and looked like a glacier. The remnants of the battle with the fusion stage Reaper were still visible. The ground had deep webs of cracks. The party slowly landed in the middle of the barren mountain. In Gaia's eyes, she could see a towering fortress atop the floating mountain. She couldn't wait to transform this barren floating mountain into the world's first floating fortress. Master Ghost, Lord Julian extended his arm toward Michael. Michael grabbed his arm. Lord Julian closed his eyes as Michael felt a tinge of electricity passing through his arm. Does the host wish to take the floating mountain as your base of operation? Asked the system. Yes, Michael confirmed in his head. It's done, said Lord Julian. Michael felt a strange connection with the mountain. He pointed his finger as the floating mountain trembled before slowly floating forward. Lord Julian and the protectors were stunned to see the power of Michael. Although Lord Julian was a fusion stage cultivator, he couldn't move the mountain without the help of the protectors. They all needed to work together and use their combined energies to move the mountain. However, Michael did that single-handedly. After exchanging pleasantries for a few more minutes, Lord Julian and the others prepared to leave the floating mountain. But before Eve could ascend to the sky, Michael called out for her. Eve nodded at her father, wordlessly telling him to go first. Michael looked up at Eve. A gentle smile hiding grave concerts appeared on Michael's face. Whatever happens, whatever people say about me, I always thought of you as my friend. I had no ulterior motives for helping you, Eve. Why are you telling me this now, Ghost? Eve furrowed her brows. She was about to descend when Michael disappeared from her sight along with Gaia and Nightmare. Once the floating mountain completely disappeared from their sight, Gaia asked. Why did you say that to Eve? Asked Gaia. This chapter upload first at NovelBin. Net new novel chapters are published on NovelBin. I feel like I can't pretend to live two lives anymore, Michael sighed. He had this eerie feeling for some time. Even though he did everything in his power to hide his other identity, some things weren't in his control. His instincts had never betrayed him, and this time, they were telling him to fully embrace his Dark Lord persona instead of living as Ghost in the day and the Dark Lord in the night. He felt the two identities were stopping him from reaching his full potential. The mental pressure to keep his identity hidden was getting higher and higher. As a result, he started to make mistakes. After all, Michael was not a perfect human being to not make any mistakes. Even if our identities get exposed, I just hope the people who helped us won't get in trouble with the Guardian Guild and the Skyhull, said Nightmare. His thoughts were no different than Gaia's. She was worried about the Sunrise sect and everyone in it. Do you have a plan for them? Asked Michael. Why do you think I allied myself with the Holy Church? When the world learns Ghost is the Dark Lord, the Guardian Guild would obviously target everyone who aided us. Since the Holy Church itself helped us, they would do their best to spin the story they helped us without knowing Ghost's real identity. They would say Ghost fooled them. It's not a story, it's the truth, said Gaia. Michael nodded and continued. The Holy Church can't say they were fooled but not the others. It will make them look even worse. Plus, I always kept a distance from the people who helped us. So the Skyhull and the Guardian Guild will put them under surveillance but won't harm them, Michael explained. I really hope your instinct is wrong this time, human. Gaia slowly shook her head. She was especially concerned for little Cindy and Raylene. They were truly innocent people who had done nothing wrong. Me too, Michael sighed. They continued to fly toward the Holy Church in the city of Ysirius, where Michael met Vishrian. The floating golden temples soon appeared in their view, being covered by snow. Read chapter 578 to refresh your memory. To Michael's surprise, when he got closer to the church, Vishriel flew out of the temple to welcome him as though Vishrian had sensed Michael's presence. Believer Ghost, Vishrian greeted Michael with a smile. Miss Elia, Nightmare, Vishrian smiled at Gaia and Nightmare. Chapter 687. Heavenly Tribulation 2. The Holy Church's interior was completely made of gold. Even the benches were pure gold. Michael was dumbstruck by the show of wealth. The hall resembled a typical church's interior on Earth. At the end of the hall, statues of the sun and moon erupted to honor the Great One and Two. The Holy Church believed the Great One was the sun and the Great Two was the moon. Vishrian asked them to wait and pray to the Great One and Two while he asked permission to offer a safe haven to Michael from His Holiness. He wasn't the same His Holiness Michael met on Royal Land. Michael and Gaia pretended to pray by kneeling before the Great One and Two. For some reason, Michael had a strange feeling when he knelt down. He felt like something inside him was telling him not to kneel down before anyone. He was a god, after all. But Michael did not listen to this feeling. If kneeling down would save his life, he would rather kneel down than die on his feet. Except for the howling wind, Michael heard nothing. The silence calmed his mind and soul. Nightmare sat on one of the gold benches and stared at the place with a bewildered look. Everything glowed, radiating golden light. Nightmare scratched the golden bench with his claw. He wanted to rip everything from the church and hoard it in a secret place. Although he grew up with Michael and Gaia, he still had his dragon instincts to hoard valuables. Control yourself, Nightmare ordered himself. After waiting for almost 15 minutes, Vishrian finally walked out of the door. Believer Ghost, Michael slowly opened his eyes. He slightly looked up to see Vishrian standing before him with a gentle smile. His Holiness has agreed to your request, Believer Ghost, said Vishrian with a smile. Michael stood up. There was no doubt in Michael's mind that the Holy Church would deny his request. How could they when Michael offered to give millions to the church as a donation? Still, Michael pretended to be relieved and elated. Gratitude to the Great One and Two, Michael bowed like an honest to the core believer. He's also sending his personal holy guards to ensure no one interrupts your heavenly tribulation. His Holiness is so generous and kind, said Michael. But if I may ask Believer Vishrian, how strong are these holy guards? Asked Michael. Since he threatened Victoria, it was only natural for Thusia to send people to end his life. King Barnes wouldn't take the risk of retaliating against Bradford or anyone close to Michael due to Michael's threat of exposing the cosmic stream. At the same time, he wouldn't send half-immortal stage warriors after Michael either. First, suppose he had sent half-immortals after Michael, it would draw the attention of the Council of the Immortals. Chapter 688. Rowena meets Harriet Hunt. While Michael was facing the heavenly tribulation, Diana interrupted the 5 fusion stage cultivators sent by Maxim Barnes. The 5 men were dressed in complete crimson-red robes with hoods and cloaks to cover their faces. As usual, Diana was in her black armor, carrying the 2 black swords. Facing Diana, the 5 cultivators hovered in the air, far away from Michael. Even from a mile away, they could see the raging storm and crazy lightning streaks in the distance. Just as King Maxim sent a warning letter to the Voldegards, he sent one to Winston's family. As soon as Diana read the letter, she came to Ara through a teleportation gate. Judging by her son's nature, she knew he wouldn't put the Voldegards in danger by staying with them. So the next option for him was to use the Holy Church as his safe haven. Hence, Diana stayed close to the Holy Church, expecting trouble. "Who are you?" asked one of the 5 warriors. They were all at fusion stage level 6 as Diana had reached fusion stage level 2. But she had an advantage over them thanks to the primordial flame she wielded. Moreover, Diana had far more battle experience than the 5. "Turn back and leave," Diana coldly said. Normally, Diana would have killed the 5 without a second thought. The situation was anything but normal. She didn't want their battle to cause a disturbance to the heavenly tribulation. Until her son crossed the tribulation, she wanted to keep the enemies as far as possible. But deep down, she knew they wouldn't back down. They primarily came here to disrupt the heavenly tribulation and thus, killing Ghost without a fight. "We don't know or care who you are. Take your own advice and leave this place. His life ends today." One of them slowly floated forward. His eyes glimmered with killing intent under the cloak. "Lady, you are outnumbered. Just leave," another one said. "It's only 3 against 1, Diana snickered. "How so?" The one leading the group tilted his head. "When I kill the leader in a brutal way, that's you," Diana pointed her sword at the man. "Another one will try to cast a spell, I will burn him alive. The third one will feel reluctant to attack, and I will kill him too. The remaining 2, they always run," said Diana. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed. The 5 chuckled. In a blink of an eye, the leader charged at Diana. The other 4 quickly cast various spells. To Diana's surprise, The energy fluctuation she felt around them was several times more powerful than it should have been. A golden sword materialized in the leader's hand. He swung the sword left and right. Each of the rest specialized in elemental spells. Fire, wind, water, and stones danced around Diana. Soon, the fire turned into an ethereal fire dragon, the wind turned into a giant fist, the water turned into a 12-feet-long spear, and stones formed a stone giant. Diana evaded the golden sword. She had never sensed such powerful energies from typical hitmen like them. It was certain they weren't using celestial energy, as the energy Diana felt was several times more powerful than celestial energy. Even with cosmic energy running through his veins, the leader couldn't reach Diana's speed. When he swung the sword, Diana grabbed his hand and twisted it with all her might. N0VL next. Come. The man screamed. He was too arrogant to cast a defense spell around him. Meanwhile, the fire dragon soared through the sky with its mouth wide open to swallow Diana. She quickly grabbed the leader and flew away from Michael's direction. After realizing these five were using much more powerful energy, Diana didn't hold back. She immediately conjured the light flame. The bright light blinded the five and raised the temperature around them by several degrees. They all felt the smoldering heat from the flames. Diana squeezed the leader's throat, opening his mouth forcefully. Diana willed the light flames to condense into a tiny ball. The five of them slowly opened their eyes as the brightness dimmed from the flames. The moment they opened their eyes, they felt a chill running down their spines. They saw the lady sending the ball of fire down their leader's throat. The man couldn't scream but wiggled his body like a fish out of water. His throat melted as hot butter. Soon, blood spurted out from his throat to his stomach, but the blood evaporated due to the intense heat. When Diana let go of his shoulder, his body was cut in halves by the light flames. The remaining four shuddered. All the spells they cast ceased moving. Using their shock to her advantage, Diana clapped her hands together, sending a powerful blast of wind. The blast disrupted the shapes of the fiery dragon, water spear, wind fist as well as the stone giant. She followed her blast of wind with a beam of light flames. The bright beam went straight through the stone giant. Granted, the cosmic energy was much more powerful than the celestial energy, but the light flame was on the same power level as the cosmic energy. This was why Maxim Barnes was obsessed with controlling all the primordial flames by himself. Without a primordial flame, there was nothing in the universe to rival cosmic energy. Although the five used cosmic energy to cast spells and cultivate, they were still far from mastering cosmic energy. On the contrary, Diana had mastered the light flames to the fullest. She was able to unleash its power more than the five unleashed the power of cosmic energy. As a result, Diana's light beam went straight through the stone giant's chest. The stone giant crumbled to pieces. Yet the light beam did not stop. Diana moved her hands, cutting through the fist, fiery dragon, and the water spear. In a blink of an eye, she destroyed all their spells. But the five quickly retaliated by casting a bright translucent shield around them. They all combined their energies to form one powerful shield around them. When the light beam and the cosmic energy shield clashed, it resulted in a powerful explosion. The explosion sound was masked by a thunderclap. But the shock wave itself sent both parties flying. "We have to combine our energies," a Thusian warrior shouted at his colleagues. They quickly coordinated to retaliate. Diana clenched her swords tighter. She looked at the storm's direction over her shoulder. In the distance, her son was crossing his heavenly tribulation. Because he was born a god, his heavenly tribulation was much more powerful and dangerous at the same time. The effects of the raging storm, coupled with powerful earthquakes, could be felt even from a mile away. Diana closed her eyes, willing the light flames to shield her body. Soon, the flames coiled around her body, making the Thusians close their eyes. The flame was simply too bright. Additionally, the flame radiated an otherworldly whistling noise. It disrupted their thoughts. Each of the four Thusians conjured a ball of light. Only the light balls were conjured with cosmic energy. The four of them merged the cosmic energy balls, forming one big swirling ball of pure cosmic energy. The two forces were about to clash when a thick blue streak of lightning cut through the sky above them. Unlike the Thujans, Diana wasn't distracted by the sudden lightning strike. She fired a beam of light toward the Thujans. To her surprise, Diana sensed another primordial flame merge with the light beam. It was an icy blue arrow. The light beam grew much more powerful and larger in size when the arrow merged with the light beam. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Netboot. The combined power of two primordial flames shattered the cosmic shield. Arg! The Thujans screamed as they were sent flying several meters behind. Each of them coughed up blood. Their skin turned pale under their robes. But Diana did not press her advantage. She had something much more grave to deal with. She slowly turned around, sensing another powerful being descending from the lightning streak. It was none other than Rowena, her daughter herself. "Who are you?" Rowena coldly asked Diana. Initially, Rowena sensed the heavenly tribulation from her flying palace. For some reason, she thought about Ghost. But when Rowena reached the place, she felt another surge of powerful energy, particularly another primordial flame. Her instinct told Rowena to fight against the four Thujans instead of the dark-robed woman. Rowena tried to see through the dark cloak, but the woman had a concealing spell on her face to prevent anyone from seeing her face. The two of them stared at each other without batting an eye. As a result of these lightning strikes, the red maple leaves turned white. The lightning bolts bleached the red maple trees. The rumbling thunder almost sounded like the sky itself split open. They all feared for their lives. Even the fusion stage cultivators flew a mile back from the storm. The phenomenon continued for almost 5 hours. Afterward, the lightning bolts disappeared from the sky. Instead, the pitch-black sky and raging storm completely enveloped the Holy Church. None of them could see what was happening inside the storm. His heavenly tribulation caused the ocean surrounding Ar to become unstable and prone to violent waves. Gigantic tsunami waves rushed toward the land from all directions. Even the Golden Princess and court mages of the Empress herself came out of seclusion to cast energy barriers around the continent. Some of the peasants who witnessed these giant waves, trembling ground, and dark sky thought it was the end of the world. One couldn't blame them. After all, anyone would freak out when the day suddenly turns into night. Inside the storm, everything turned pitch black. The only source of light inside the storm was the glowing runes around Michael and on the Holy Church building. If it weren't for these runes, the gravitational pull would have stripped the maple trees and the church itself off the ground. Soon, seconds turned into minutes, and minutes turned into hours. When the final day of his tribulation arrived, every single kingdom in the Ar continent felt the effects of his tribulation. There was no one in Ar who didn't hear the rumbling thunder and see streaks of lightning in the sky. "Novel, it's time," Nightmare said to Gaia. It had been 5 days since Michael triggered his heavenly tribulation. Gaia and everyone noticed the storm slowing down. The dark storm clouds gradually passed away, letting the light pass through the sky. Eventually, they were able to see Michael's silhouette in the middle of the storm. Ethan and Sabrina heaved a sigh of relief. Michael slowly opened his eyes. His skin and hair glowed. In a few seconds, his short hair grew several inches to reach his lower neck. Coupled with a stubble beard, Michael looked dashing. The tattered robes vanished into thin air, and instead, new black robes enveloped his body. As usual, he wore a long black coat with matching black pants. The coat was etched with a silver lining and made of thick fabric. Instead of a black turtleneck, Michael chose black leather armor with protective chest plates. Finally, he completed his wardrobe with black boots and tactical fingerless gloves. Michael's gaze swept across the sky. He noticed hundreds of cultivators staring at him. Without making them wait any longer, he slowly ascended to the sky. Novel Top 1. Or everyone remained still in fear. A half-immortal was a pinnacle of existence who could end their lives with a single spell.